the keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. We got news today. Just not the news that anyone is expecting. Charles Omenihu's upset. Hey, man, what's up, Deshaun Watson? What's your decision?
Where you finna go, bro?
Yeah, where you finna go?
Where you finna go, bro? Not only that, Ant, we did get a couple other news, and we didn't go live and break this at the time because, well, number one, this morning when it happened at 6 o'clock when Trent Sherfield reportedly was going to be signing with the Miami Dolphins, I just missed it. I just flat out missed it. The Cutback Street thing happened, about an hour or so before we were going to come on here, and it's like, all right, we'll just wait to talk about this then. The Niners also lost Cutback Street. They also lost Trent Sherfield. Sherfield going to the Miami Dolphins, basically the San Francisco Dolphins at this point, Ant, is what they are, or at least the Miami 49ers. Yeah. It's what they're feeling like. And then the Saints are scooping up Cutback Street. I kept seeing people talking about how the Niners didn't tender him because they're planning to sign him to a long-term deal, and I was like, no, they didn't. They didn't tender him because they're letting this guy go.
Yeah, they signed his replacement yesterday.
Correct.
I mean, as soon as they signed Hassan Ridgeway, he is a better player than Cutback Street. Cutback Street did a good enough job for us last year, but, overall, he's been underwhelming in his career with the San Francisco 49ers. He's had a lot of injuries that he's dealt with. I think he's a really good dude and a decent player. But, yeah, they were going to try to sign him to the league minimum if they decided to bring him back, but there was no guarantee he was going to make the 53-man roster. So it would have been a 90-man, depth piece that could have ended up on the practice squad. No, he's going to land with the New Orleans Saints with an opportunity to play, more than he would have played in San Francisco. So Ridgeway is the reason he's gone, and Ridgeway is a nice improvement. I like that potential there. I think we could get, a similar thing that we've seen from Omenihu and from Jordan Willis, where their production goes up as soon as they get into the San Francisco 49ers defense with Chris Kasarik.
Yeah, you ain't wrong on that, man. You ain't wrong at all. Look, it's one of those things right now with those two going. Not necessarily a surprise, I'd say, for either one of us. I think we always thought there was an opportunity. Trent Sherfield could come back, but I don't know if it was necessarily high on the priority list for the San Francisco 49ers, nor was Cutback Street. Guess what? Not high on the priority list, either one of those guys, and the Niners are looking at doing potentially other things. But you said it, right? Some big things have been happening around the league. Big things happening all across, whether that's cuts. Fletcher Cox now released by the Eagles and available for teams to go after. Whether that's the Packers and the Raiders making big blockbuster trades with Devontae Adams and draft picks, first and a second round pick, plus $28.5 million per year for Devontae Adams. And the Niners they're not doing anything. And hi, David Williams, how you doing, my guy? But the Niners, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, welcome, here. David.
Welcome. But the Niners are just something. It's just nothing happening right now. But it seems like Deshaun Watson's situation is looming, right? Two of the teams have been informed that they're no longer in the runnings. It's down to the Saints and the Falcons. So maybe an update while we're live, and then immediately the Niners get a deal done with Jimmy Garoppolo? No, that's not happening.
I think that would be wonderful if something happened like that and Deshaun Watson finally made up his mind. But it doesn't appear he can. I mean, he doesn't really he's not really, prone to make quick decisions, apparently, because he's been letting this thing linger for a while. I think he is a little bit torn about where he wants to go, and that's why he's making a decision, because ultimately, I don't think either one of these teams is where he wanted to land, but this is the spot he's in, and now he's going to have to go to one of these teams, and until then, the 49ers are kind of held hostage. We had the whole Baker Mayfield fiasco as well, where he requests a trade. Cleveland says, how about no, Scott, okay? And so now he's going to be back in Cleveland, it appears, unless they just can't work that thing out. So once again, it seems like the 49ers are staring at this Indianapolis Colts again. I know that if he chooses Atlanta, maybe Matt Ryan would be an option for the Colts. But the Colts, I think, have to be a little bit leery about getting someone that's as old as Matt Ryan to come in. They've went this route before. So I think the 49ers are still sitting in a spot that they feel comfortable in. It's just not moving as fast as anyone wants. And I think every time we see one of these free agent signings, we're like, wait a second, that could have been us. We don't know if that's the case.
It could have been me.
We don't know if that's the case because really the Niners, could agree to terms with any of these players, and they don't officially sign and then turn in until the paperwork's turned into the NFL. It doesn't actually affect your salary cap, so they could do that if they want. But there's still a lot of high-priced guys out there, and there's still a lot of good football players that could come back to the 49ers. But right now, we're all waiting on Deshaun Watson's decision because we think at that point it'll kick Jimmy Garoppolo into full gear.
It feels like that's what is happening at this point in time. That's going to be the thing that actually kicks things into motion, right? Like the Niners will actually begin free agency once they move off of Jimmy Garoppolo. But at the end of the day, too, is the Niners, if they really wanted to be in the full swing of everything right now with free agency, they could just do what the Saints did, right? The Saints were $88 million over the cap, Ant. They're $29 million under the cap now. They restructured everything and everyone. If the Niners really wanted to do that, they could take that same route. They could sign guys, extend guys, put dead money down the road, restructure everyone under the sun, free up $29 million in cap space, and then go after guys while they hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo. They could do that.
Yeah.
They're not doing that. So it seems like right now the plan for the 49ers is priority one was get your corner, add some D-line rotational depth, and worry about trading Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what it seems like the priorities are for the San Francisco 49ers. That's what they're focused on doing right now, and they're not focused on anything else.
I think they were focused on possibly bringing in an edge rusher. Chandler Jones admittedly said it came down to the 49ers and the Raiders. I mean, so the Niners were in on him, but at $17.5 million, that's just a little bit too rich for what the Niners were trying to do. I'm sure they were trying to get him for a lot lower deal. The fact that Zadarius Smith took himself back off the market and didn't go to Baltimore means he saw the tea leaves as well as how much money is out there. Von Miller, 6 years, $120 million. Chandler Jones getting $17.5 million a year. And he's like, wait a second, I was going to play for a measly $8.5 million per year with escalators that can make it 50. No. I'm going to want that $50 million to be something.
I'm going to need that.
Yeah, I'm going to need that with escalators to go even higher than that. So he put himself back on the market, and we'll see what kind of market is there for him. But apparently right now, cornerback and edge rusher are fielding a lot of interest. You add in the new people that are being added every single day with cuts, because now Lowell Collins is out there as well. We know he's about to go meet with Sensi, and that'll probably be a done deal. But that's also an interesting, name the 49ers could possibly reach out to, because, you do have questions at right tackle with Mike McGlinchey. He's got the injury. Could you possibly go after Collins and then make a move with McGlinchey? It's something interesting to watch, at least, if he ever gets out of Cincy, because they have lots of money and they need offensive linemen.
That they do, and Matthew Rowley just said, just here to say I absolutely loathe the Dolphins at this point. I know T.O. had mentioned a little bit earlier, it looks like Rodgers got jobbed. Actually, the reports that are coming out are saying the opposite, that Aaron Rodgers signed his deal knowing that they were going to franchise Devontae Adams, knowing that he wasn't going to be happy about that, and that Aaron Rodgers was very well aware of how everything was playing out with Devontae after he stated, I'm not playing on that franchise tag. That's not happening. And that the Packers were shopping him. Rodgers was aware. So Rodgers knew what was going on and still signed on the dotted line regardless.
Yeah, I mean, and Matthew Rowley's comments about the Dolphins. I mean, the Raheem Mostert one kind of stung. Are you really, did it sting about Trent Sherfield? I've seen some people on Twitter that it seemed like it really stung them that Trent Sherfield left and went to Miami. What, did you feel the same way?
No, I didn't feel that way.
No, I didn't. I felt that he was a special teams guy that should be our fourth or fifth wide receiver and fifth or sixth at best, really.
With the names they still have over there, there's no guarantee Trent Sherfield will even make the roster.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't filled out their wide receiver position at all. They only have two guys right now. Of course, they have like Keyshawn Johnson and some of those guys, but let's be honest, those guys are 90-man roster guys. They're not going to actually, be one of these guys that make the football team. The 49ers still have, to stick to it and address it in free agency, and then of course the draft. So I am curious where they go with this, because there's still a lot of names out there. And of course, 49er Edits on Twitter goes ahead and puts out there that maybe Brandon Cooks wants to, well, actually he said Brandon Cooks does want to come to the 49ers. Oh. Wondering who his source is.
And did we talk about that not too long ago?
Yeah.
We did?
Because we have a legit source.
Do you think his source is the same as our source?
No.
Wait. Are you sure?
Yeah, because I can make one text and it could end up getting to somebody that's. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. We'll just leave it like that. No.
Oh, okay.
No. It's
not the same source.
Not the same source. It doesn't. He's not wrong. 49er Edits is not wrong. So people are saying like sources. He's actually right.
It was either just a shot in the dark or he watched one of our videos.
No, yeah,
one of those. One of those situations.
But like he's not wrong. I mean, Brandon Cooks had interest before free agency ever even started, but he had to get out of his contract there. He hasn't yet. He'd be open to a trade. Seattle was on his mind until Russell Wilson went. We know that. He obviously wouldn't go to the Rams at this point. So
how are you going to? I mean, how are you going to? They just signed Allen Robinson to a big deal, and the reports are they're still going after OBJ.
Yeah, but it seems like OBJ might be a little upset about that. Some of his posts on Twitter make you think that maybe he's ready to move in a different direction. Do you think he wants to be listed as the 4th receiver for the Los Angeles Rams?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, I mean, I think Green Bay would be a logical landing spot. They just freed up $20 million. They don't have to give Devontae Adams. So OBJ to Green Bay makes a lot of sense, I think.
It definitely does make a lot of sense, Ant. OBJ to Green Bay makes a lot of sense at this point. We'll see. People are tweeting out right now, NFL is the real March Madness and all this fun stuff.
It pretty much is, yeah.
And then Brad said, do you guys see Debo's tweet? Of course we saw Debo's tweet, and Debo was not wrong.
Yeah.
The NFC is becoming very, very easy. By the minute, it is getting easier to compete and contend with. So, everyone's sitting there going, the Niners are just sitting on their hands. They're sitting on their hands and not getting any worse, and they're sitting on their hands and not getting worse in the division.
I got bad news for everyone.
Uh-oh.
Here's some bad news. According to Aaron Wilson of the NFL, Deshaun Watson currently expected to take the next few days and contemplate his decision over the weekend, per league sources, over which team he'll waive his no-trade clause for. The Falcons have pushed back Matt Ryan's $7.5 million roster bonus from Friday to Tuesday.
Wow, Ant. So, Ant, you got to make a decision in 48 hours. I'm going to take the weekend. You got until Tuesday. Come on. Well, teams are bending over backwards. I'm not surprised by that, Ant. Ultimatum grows. Ultimatum grows and gets a little longer, and they're flexible with it. Oh, goodness gracious me. 49ers fans, buckle up. It's going to be a long free agency and a long offseason.
It's
looking that way. It definitely is looking that way.
I mean, the thing is still wild. I mean, this is just wild. Yeah, I mean, Adam Schefter's reporting about the roster bonus being pushed back, so that's completely accurate. So you would think that he needs more time. This is an indication that they need more time. They've also have to figure out what to do with Matt Ryan if Deshaun Watson ultimately chooses to go there.
It's true, Tio. Jeez. Probably a good massage and he'll decide.
Oh, wow.
Ivan Gonzalez, he's freaking out. Bro, Niners need to do moves because our schedule is freaking crazy. It is. You got to play a lot of tough teams and a lot of teams who have gone all in and really loaded up their roster, especially in the AFC West. You got that coming up this year that you're going to have to be dealing with. So, I mean, you want them to make moves, but it's not happening. It's not happening right now.
The way it's playing out is, I mean, yeah, you might lose your games against the AFC, but if you win your games in the NFC, I mean, you could be the number 1 seed with 11 wins. This AFC is murderer's row, especially the AFC West, and that's who the 49ers get to play. These guys are going in, and it's not just them. The Dolphins have made solid moves. The Jets have made solid moves going all in, and you also have the Buffalo Bills. So the AFC East, the AFC West have been going crazy all in to build their football teams. I think that, right now the 49ers, though, are sitting comfortable in the NFC. And I mean, that's what Debo's tweet is about. Look at this conference. Players are going away. And so the NFC is getting easier and easier to win. You got Tom Brady reaching out to Julio Jones, trying to set up, a super wide receiver core going there. If I'm Julio, I'm taking one look at what happened to Antonio Brown. It's like, I'm not going crazy. So no, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to decide, but Austin Hooper's out there. You got Julio Jones available. Those seem to be possible guys the 49ers could be interested in. We know the 49ers have been, I think, linked to 17 different receivers now, I believe I read.
That's a lot of receivers.
Yeah.
It's a lot of receivers. And apparently Jarvis Landry's back on the list. Another report that I read as well. Spy v Spy, frick dude, the Raiders front, craps on ours. I mean, okay.
Well, I think it's
good.
I think right now, I mean, the Raiders, right, they're looking like they made a huge decision. They gave up nearly the same amount of draft capital that the Seahawks gave up for Jamal Adams, for a defensive end who sometimes plays safety.
Occasionally.
And walked away with Devontae Adams, one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in the league. True. They did have to turn around and pay him $28 million, but what did you expect? I mean, they were going to have to do this. They had to make these moves to be able to compete with the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs. I think the Chiefs need to make a move now. They're kind of sitting there standing pat, and everyone in their division is getting better.
Everyone in their division is getting better, and they're losing some players as well. They lost Charvarius Ward. You're losing Tyrann Mathieu. You're going to be losing a lot of guys there and not bringing them back into the fold of that roster. They're going to need to start doing something at some point, you would imagine. But they're kind of sitting firm as well. I really want people to think about this. The Chiefs sitting firm. Niners have been sitting firm. The Colts, who had the most amount of money. One of the, they had $44 million coming into free agency. Have been sitting firm. Teams that were, the Niners, who were really close, the Chiefs, who were very close to a Super Bowl, and the Colts, who were playing like the hottest team in football going into Week 18, and then, just boggled it against the Jaguars, all sitting firm, not doing a whole heck of a lot in terms of bringing guys in. Listen, there are ways to go about handling free agency and building out a roster and doing certain things, right? Would anyone say that the Colts have done a bad job with free agency and just signings in general? I mean, Ballard has been, hailed as a genius there with the Colts.
Well, I think the Colts and the 49ers are in a holding pattern. They're both waiting because they need to have that. He needs to have that money free if they're going to go after Jimmy Garoppolo. That's $25 million. So he can't overspend and then not have that available. They did make a nice trade with Yannick Ngakoue, and they got him.
Sure.
And they traded Rock Ya-Sin. I think that was a bang-up move for them, helping in the edge rusher department. Their defense got better. But, I mean, other than that, they haven't really made any moves. But, Alex, when the Rams made their signing today and brought in Allen Robinson, I sent in the group chat right away. What did I send? 2 gifts. Tyrann Mathieu and Stephon Gilmore. I'm like, all right, let's just do this thing. It's like that's how it feels sometimes. So I understand how people feel. It's like, man, our front office isn't doing anything. That's how you feel sometimes because you see all these teams making these big splash moves, and you're like, man, I want to get in on this. I want my team to be one of those.
Why can't we
super
do
teams.
that?
Yeah, I get it. I really do, but. I'm just continuing to be hopeful because there's a lot of players that still haven't signed and a lot of good players that are still out there. So the 49ers do make a couple of moves, including trading Jimmy Garoppolo. I think the fan base will be more excited about it. But right now it's kind of like, dude, what we did what? That's all we've done. So it's interesting so far what the 49ers have done in free agency. I thought there was going to be a little bit more splash, and right now there's not.
That is not. It is not at all, and it's the opposite of a splash. It's the dipping a toe of said water, and it seems like the water's fine because there's a lot of the people jumping in the pool, and the Niners are like, not yet, not quite, right? Not there yet. We're really not there. Landry would be wide receiver 3. I mean, if you went after someone like Landry, I don't know if he'd be wide receiver 3, but he's going to be in a rotation there with Jawan Jennings doing different things. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. Brad Jones is predicting Watson to the Falcons, Ryan to the Colts, Jimmy to Browns, and Baker to the Seahawks. That's what he is saying is going to happen. Stephen Mandler says we need to sign Fletcher Cox. I would absolutely love the addition of Fletcher Cox.
That's what Alex sent.
Immediately, as soon as I saw the cut, I was like, bring me Fletcher Cox.
Our group chat is very entertaining, and that's the one thing we got right there is we got from him was Fletcher Cox to the 49ers. Yeah, I mean, they weren't going to pay him $18 million. I think they still hope that they're going to be able to work out a new contract with him, and this is just one of those steps they had to do. But, I mean, if now he's available, and interior defensive lineman, the 49ers added, if they were able to add Fletcher Cox, I just don't know how much it's going to cost. Is it going to cost more than what DJ Jones was going to get? So, I mean, he would be big time for this interior defensive line. Huge. But then you're also, Alex, talking about Kinlaw being a backup rotational piece again. Are you okay with a first-round pick being a backup and a rotational piece behind Fletcher Cox?
If I was going to be okay with Javon Kinlaw sitting behind DJ Jones, then I am A-okay with Javon Kinlaw sitting behind Fletcher Cox.
Well said.
Not
yeah.
Right? There is no world or no version of me that is sitting here right now going, no, Javon Kinlaw has to start. And unless Fletcher Cox is fine with coming off the bench. No, there's no world in which I'm saying that.
Yeah, I'm ready to go full gangsta mode as well. I'm ready to let's go get Stephon Gilmore, put him at corner. Hey, Emmanuel Mosley, you're the nickel. I'm kind of just there because I look at the Rams and I just see all their ability. So we either have to be able to get to Matthew Stafford in a hurry, or we got to be able to cover him. And I think it would help a little bit if we could cover a little bit longer and allow this defensive line to get home because that first unit is still going to be a nice wave. Of course, they do need another edge rusher that they can use in the interior when they go to their more NASCAR package. Arden Key, Jordan Willis. Or even one of these, guys that's still available, and there's lots of guys. So they do need to bring in an edge rusher that can make an impact on obvious pass downs. I believe they could get one in the draft, so there's that potentiality. But they do need to make a move, Alex, because I think they need to upgrade somewhere, and it could be as easy as bringing back Jaquiski Tartt. I think that would help. But I am worried about the Rams' wide receiver room now because they are absolutely locked and loaded, and if they bring in OBJ as well, and they're running those 4 guys out there. That's one of the most, elite groups of wide receivers.
With Van Jefferson would be wide receiver 5.
Yeah, and potentially they can move on from Van Jefferson and use him to get, a tackle or something or free up a little bit of space. So it's definitely interesting. But they're going to have to replace Whitworth. That's one thing they do have to do.
Yeah, it's very true. Very, very true. I mean, it's just insane, man. It's absolutely insane. Everything that's going on right now, I can't wrap my head around it, Ant.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around it. When I woke up this morning and there wasn't a whole lot of news and information going on, I was like, okay, we're just waiting on Deshaun. We're waiting on Deshaun. It's going to happen here at some point. And as the day progresses, nothing happens, nothing grows. We don't get any new insight, no anything. And it's just.
I got an update.
Just for
Charvarius Ward just tweeted 9 minutes ago. Bang, bang, Niner game.
That he did, baby. That he did, and he really did do that. JLA just asked, too, guys, catch any of the new hire interviews? I didn't catch the new hire interviews, but I did catch Charvarius Ward's interview, which was cringe-worthy. Not because of Charvarius Ward, but because of everybody in the room asking questions. Oh, my God. I literally, mid-interview, stopped what I was doing and called Ant. I was like, dude, are you watching any of this? He's like, no. And I was like, what is happening? Who did they let into the room and on Zoom to ask questions?
Yeah, luckily it's on Zoom. But Charvarius Ward ends that great. Man, they asked some whack and then it cuts. Yeah, I mean, we've seen Debo kind of respond the same way.
Debo and him are about to become best friends.
Yeah, I liked his attitude at the end. Like, what the heck? Like, these players want to know about like the football questions. They want to know what it means, about coming to San Francisco, why the organization that you chose. Other than that, they don't want to know. They don't want you to ask about their childhood and all that. They don't care. They're not writing a book, Alex. Like, they just want it to be about business. They're about football and they're about business.
There was 2 football questions. One of them was a legitimate question about, his ability playing man-to-man press coverage and how comfortable he is doing it. And the other one that was a football question was a silly football question because it was Thanos asking him if he has any experience playing in the slot. Thanos, you have game film of him playing in the league. You know the answer to that question. You also know the Niners just paid this man $14 million a year. He's not here to play in the slot. He's here to lock down one side of the field.
Wait, you don't pay corners $14 million to play in the slot?
No. Shocked, Ant. I'm stunned.
Yeah.
I could not believe the questions that were being asked him. I was sitting there. You guys are, everyone on Zoom right now, you're professionals. You're supposed to be, this is what you do for a living. You sit up at night and think about questions to ask people to write stories about. This is what you came up with? What? This is the things that the 49ers fans need to know about the new corner they just signed?
Why are you giving them so much credit?
I'm not giving them credit at all. I'm just baffled.
You said they stay up at night and think about these questions.
Okay, so I did give them credit.
Absolutely not.
Right.
They were like, oh my gosh, we got to interview a guy today. Let's just ask him what he did in 6th grade. That'll be fun. Did you like Italian surprise that you used to eat at lunch? I mean, they're never going to ask good football questions because most of them struggle with it. I mean, when was somebody going to ask him, hey, where did you develop your press coverage skills, or did you learn that in college? That would have been great.
Do you think you're the way you play man-to-man press coverage, do you think that's going to translate well in this system here with D'Amico Ryans and this secondary? No, none of that. Just none of that. We're just going to say silly things, talk about nonsensical stuff, and
Interesting. William Roberts says we should draft 2 corners to be backups because the rookie corners we have ain't it. Oh, I mean, I think Deommodore Lenoir definitely needs to improve, but I thought Ambry Thomas, proved himself to be an adequate backup for this year. I think they did go get Charvarius.
Weren't people also, like, at the beginning of the year saying Demo was the real deal?
Oh, no, of course, because there was a couple highlights that went up.
So what happened? Like, why are we here? Like, can we let rookies develop? Not us, but I'm just saying, as a fan base, can we let
I think that's what
develop?
William is saying, though, right? It's like he hasn't seen anything from them yet that makes him think that they're anything more than backups.
But drafting 2 more corners would just push them further down the bench.
No, it would. That's what he's saying. They don't have the value. They're not good enough.
Yeah, it's way too early to assess that.
I think so too, but I'm just saying it's an interesting thought. I don't have a problem with William thinking that.
I don't have a problem with you thinking it, but I think it's way too early personally. It's way too early. That's like it's the same people who are saying Trey's not ready.
Well, Charvarius Ward signals that Ambry Thomas isn't ready.
Well, of course.
That they didn't.
But I didn't need Charvarius Ward to be signed to know that.
Well, you know that, and I know that, but that's a definite signal to the fan base that he's not ready.
Very true. Yeah. John Paul, what kick returners are left? Don't understand why they can't afford this inexpensive need. Look, my personal opinion is if you're going to go after a kick returner, just draft one. Draft a guy who can kick return and potentially develop as a wide receiver. I'd prefer that.
I can solve this in one name.
All right,
Cordero Patterson.
And that's solve it.
Kick returner, punt returner, wide receiver, running back.
Paint your back porch white.
Yeah, he could pass too. I think that he might be somebody that would be interesting because at $7 million, like I said, you could get the value out of him at wide receiver and at running back. So he would make sense to me. I don't know if that's the route they're going to go, but I think that this is the thing that Kyle Shanahan, and this is kind of the Trent Sherfield thing, is last year Richie Hightower went to Kyle Shanahan and sold him on Sherfield by saying he would be able to help on offense because Kyle Shanahan believes that a player must be able to help in the position that they play before you count on them in special teams. A lot of times they don't want to go get a guy just because it's special teams ace, but he needs to be able to help the team out as well. And so I think that that's what they're looking for, a player that can do both. So they might address it in the draft maybe, or with one of these guys that's available. I would love to see them grab someone like John Ross and put him back deep with that 4.2 speed. He's a pretty good runner in the open field. But to me, the most sense, though, is Cordero Patterson. He makes the most sense to me.
He does make the most sense. And Rome 33 with a question of questions, Ant.
Okay.
It's a question that we've had, not this exact one asked, but similar asked. He asks, would you guys go all in and win a Super Bowl this year if it meant losing 4 years in a row?
Yeah, every day of the week. If you know you're going to win a Super Bowl, you go all in and you do it. The thing is, you don't know that right now, but yeah, I've been a firm believer in this. You worry about next year. You go, if you have the opportunity to win, you go win. I know that sometimes that's a little bit frustrating, but we've waited how many years now for a Super Bowl? It's been over 20-something years. Since 1994, we haven't won a Super Bowl. So I think if you know you can get it, you go get it. Because I'll wait 4 years for another opportunity. I already waited 26 or 27 years, so what do I got to worry about? I'm going to go get that Super Bowl. I'm about one. I winning multiple Super Bowls in consecutive years or in a consecutive time period in this day and age of the NFL is not as realistic as it used to be. Dynasties used to be a thing because it was a long time before free agency really hit the way it does.
True.
Quarterback pay scales are pushing it to the point where almost the only way you can win is if you're on a rookie pay scale or if you have a quarterback that is a little bit cheaper than most, like Matthew Stafford.
It's true. Look, you know how I've been on this in the past. I've always been a guy who wants to try and balance. But as close as we've been now the last 2 years, or to the last 2 or 3 years, I want it. I want it more than I want a lot of things, Ant. And I'm willing to trade four bad seasons for one Super Bowl.
Yeah. Especially
knowing that after those 4 bad seasons, you are going to have a chance to, reset and get yourself back into a position where you were when you won the Super Bowl. I want it bad. So I will do just about anything to make that happen. I mean, as a front office, as a coach, I would be willing to do just about anything.
That's one of the conversations that we've had, Alex, right? Is when is Jed York going to look at John Lynch and just say, we're going all in? Just like Eddie would have done. We're going all in, win the Super Bowl. Now, we know the 49ers are going to have to do it at some point during Trey Lance's rookie pay scale. They have to win a Super Bowl or it's a failure if they don't get it done in his rookie pay scale.
So, question then. If I think you believe that, I know I believe that as well. I think there's probably Cutback crew members that believe that as well, and is now not the right time to be doing it because it's Trey's first year as the starter.
It could be.
And that's why they're holding steady right now.
It could be. I mean, let's see what they do. Let's let free agency play out. Let's let the draft play out. But it appears right now that they're taking a cautiously optimistic. They're trying to be like, well, we're going to make a little bit of prudent moves and then kind of, we'll have our cake and eat it too. Or we'll do a little bit and we'll still hope if Trey becomes the player that he's potentially can be, he's going to take us over the top anyways and we can possibly win a Super Bowl because we came so close with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that there could be that thought process. But maybe they're like, next year's the year. It's not 2022, it's 2023 with Trey. We're going to have a little bit more, free cap space. I don't know. All I know is when you have the opportunity, you go do it. So I think that the NFC overall is opening up.
It is wide open.
I think it's becoming wide open. There's a more direct path to the Super Bowl than there has been in several years. The NFC West is definitely a little bit weaker than it has been. Other than the offensive wide receiver core for the Rams, they've lost in other areas. So I don't think they're as good even as they were last year. So there is an avenue now for the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl, but they have to make necessary moves. I don't know if those moves are done yet. We'll see.
That very true, Ant. Very true. And look, a couple people just said, Baker to the Niners. Baker's not going anywhere. As of right now, it doesn't look that to be the case. Cleveland did deny Baker's request for a trade, but Baker could very easily do exactly what Deshaun just did and put his foot down. There's been a lot of reports coming out, stuff about Cleveland calling him a child, not an adult, things of that nature. And if those things are in any way whatsoever true, Baker's sitting there going, it's time. It's time to get out of here. It's time to get out of Dodge. I need a fresh start. This team needs a fresh start. So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens when that front with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
And I did just see, Ant, that the Carolina Panthers have officially been notified by Deshaun Watson and his representatives that they are no longer in the running for a quarterback. So now that potentially puts Carolina right back and thrusts them into the fold with Cleveland, with the Colts and things of that nature, with having to deal with San Francisco.
Yeah, and maybe they're going to reach out for Baker Mayfield. We know Seattle's in possibly trying to get Baker Mayfield, but it adds another quarterback needy team. And I've seen, that they have a financial, obligation, to the guy who sees ghosts. But they still got to get a competent quarterback. They can't roll in there with Sam Darnold and PJ Walker to play quarterback, right? I mean, this is not something they can allow to happen. And if they are going to have that happen, if them missing out on Deshaun Watson, they might need to go ahead and blow this thing up. I mean, Matt Rule might need to do that, even though it could cost him his job in the long run. But I think if they're smart now, they're going to call the 49ers. And the 49ers, John Lynch, the first thing I would say when I answered the phone was, "Oh, you're back. I know you had 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. What you willing to give me?" Because now they've showed a desire that they needed to make an upgrade at the quarterback position, and now you can try to play them off the Colts if they're interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. I have no way of knowing for sure if they are.
Very true. I have no way to know, and no one has any way to know at this point in time, Ant. But the reality is the teams that lose out on Deshaun Watson, their hand has not only been dealt and played, that's been shown to the world, right? So if you're sitting at the table and everyone's already turned over their hand and what they're playing, and you're still sitting there holding your cards and you haven't revealed yet, you're in a good spot. You're in a really, really solid position. That's what's happening right now. You have a big pot and a big hand being played at the table, at the blackjack table, at the poker table, whatever it is you gamble or play, right? And you have a bunch of people going all in on the flop. And we still got a couple of cards and a couple of things that could happen here to change the momentum and change the tide. It's why the Niners being patient. It's why I don't hate it, because a lot of things can differ and change here. The Niners don't have to go all in yet or call anyone or fake anything or bluff anything. You can just kind of sit there and let people, play out their hand and blow their load early here in free agency and see what happens because of it. Fletcher Cox getting released just recently kind of shows it. Teams are making moves and bringing guys in, and that is going to bring the cap up for them and put them over. And rather than they can't go over, because if you go over, you're either going to get fined by the league $5 million for basically every penny you're over. You can lose draft capital. You can also have contracts and player contracts voided if you do that. So they're not going to do that, which means players who could have huge impacts for a team like San Francisco or just around the league are going to start becoming available if you're going to spend as much as teams are spending right now in free agency.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this thing plays out. I mean, the plot is definitely thick, and it's down to the Saints and the Falcons for Deshaun Watson. And the reason that it's important to the 49ers, it has a direct impact on the Jimmy Garoppolo trade. What I like, though, is Carolina now has officially entered the room of possibly negotiating. And at least the 49ers can use that to their advantage. They can call the Colts now and say, hey, Carolina just entered the room. And when they do, it could possibly force the Colts to have to make a decision here. I've always hoped you have, welcome.
Julian Figueroa.
Welcome to the Cutback crew. I've always wanted to have Matt Rule be a part of this because I've said he's a crazy one. He'll make crazy moves and do crazy things and give up draft picks that he probably doesn't even have. He'd be willing to do that. So I wanted him involved, and now that he is, I look for the market for Jimmy Garoppolo to increase a little bit, hopefully, because I mean, what is he going to do now? Go after Jameis Winston? And if he does, that could put the Saints in a little bit of a bind, right? What if Jameis Winston did sign with Carolina and then the Saints miss out? There's no way the Falcons are going to send Matt Ryan to them. So that means they're going in with what? Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, or are they then calling the 49ers about Jimmy Garoppolo?
They might be, and they very much might be. And look, with this big blockbuster trade that has happened, with Devontae Adams going to the Raiders and the Raiders, shelling out $28.5 million a year to Devontae Adams, good for that man. But with them doing that, Ant, what is the likelihood, do you believe, that Stephon Gilmore is still a viable option for the Raiders?
It's not.
Okay, so if that is the case, could he be coming to San Francisco? Right, Sherman said he was migrating west. That's what he thought. We had narrowed it down to 2 teams based on everything else we had seen, the Raiders and the Niners. Niners did make a big move and signed Charvarius Ward. Could we be seeing 2 cornerbacks being signed to San Francisco?
I mean, I would love it. I just don't know what amount of money you're going to give Stephon Gilmore. Welcome.
Dar97, welcome to the Cutback crew as well.
I don't honestly know because I don't know what his number is. I kind of expected him to be off the board already. I expected him to already have signed a deal somewhere. He's a very good cornerback and an all-pro. I mean, potential. 32 years old, though. I'm sure people are going to be a little bit cautious about giving him, a longer contract. But I always thought he was going to be like a 3-year deal. Would I be willing to if I was the 49ers? It's a way different course than they've done before, but they could do that, right? They could go with a veteran cornerback like Stephon Gilmore, opposite of Charvarius Ward, put Mosley in the slot. You would have a lot of money in that secondary, and then draft, defensive linemen to go ahead and add to your rotation. You have Samson Ebukam already that can play defensive end. You could possibly bring back Jordan Willis on the cheap. So your rotation would only change one man, which you've already filled. They could roll it back like that. The one question for you is, are they going to be able to get a draft pick that can be one of those guys that can move inside? Could they go all in and move up and get Boy Mafi? Could they get AK out of Penn State? Is there somebody that they can grab in that area? Maybe they do with the Jimmy Garoppolo trade. Maybe. I mean, there is a potential there. I just don't know if they're going to be willing to pony up that cash to pay a corner. They haven't proven it yet.
No, they haven't.
Not a second corner, at least.
No, I mean, not two. I mean, we'll be talking about a situation, Ant, where you'd have a lot of money tied up in Charvarius Ward, Stephon Gilmore, and Mosley, who'd be getting $6.5 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot of dough to be spending on your cornerback room. I don't know if they would want to do that or if they're interested in doing that, but they might be.
It's a lot of money, but Charvarius Ward's number is going to be between $6 and $8 million this year. Emmanuel Mosley, $6.5, but you could also extend him and lower his cap number.
Correct.
So, you could probably get Stephon Gilmore around the $8 million in his first year. You could make it work, but it would be an all-in necessary thing. And like we've seen, Rome is saying, it seems like we're the only ones worried about money. Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I tweeted this. That's how it feels. I literally tweeted this out.
Yeah.
There is no one, the NFL, no one in the Cutback crew, there isn't a soul on this earth right now, Ant, who could convince me that the salary cap is a real thing. It has never happened. A team has never been over the salary cap. It's always salary cap. Get under the salary cap at the league year, or else. We've never seen the or else, Ant. Everything just bends around the salary cap. I don't think it's a real thing. I think it's a bunch of malarkey. I think they talk to these teams and tell them, right? You just do some stuff here, right? You just do this here. You just give them some extra signing bonuses. Just pay them under the table the extra a couple years down. It's fine. I don't think it's real. I think it's a bunch of poppycock. I'm sick of the San Francisco 49ers operating like it's this thing that something bad will happen if they go over it. I'm tired of it. It's malarkey. Just ridiculous, dude. What is happening?
You figure at some point, right? It's got you. We keep saying that at some point
it has to bite someone in the butt. They can't keep getting away with this.
It's okay. It's okay. Your blood pressure is spiking off the charts right now.
I'm so pissed, man. I'm so pissed.
I mean, we don't know. I mean, we don't know what the salary cap actually is, but what we do know is that you can manipulate it in a big way. I mean, New Orleans being able to go from $77 million over to $29 million under.
They cut $100 million.
Yeah. Did we not remember?
I said it, but $100 million.
Do you remember when I said they were going to be in on Deshaun Watson? You're like, there's no way they can come up with the money.
I said that.
Aha. Oh, yeah. This is what happens in the NFL. You can make it work. And if you were in a big market, such as New Orleans, they want you to be competitive. There's always a way around this. There's capologists that do this for a living, Alex, and they're going to continue to find ways to make it happen. Just get used to it, man.
I just want to burn every organization that's doing this nonsense. I just want to burn it to the ground, man. That's all I want. That's truly all I want. It's so frustrating.
Let's throw through some of these questions out.
There's some really good ones
there
too.
is.
I've been seeing a lot of good ones. Julian Figueroa had said a little bit earlier. Debo was working out with Landry today. I wish we could get him, but his price will be high. He's great in the slot. They still could be. The rumors are the Niners are talking to him and they're interested. So he is definitely an option that the 49ers could be going after, Ant. Rome said, seems like we're the only team worried about money. And John Paul said, what do you guys think of Cam as Trey's backup if the money was right?
You know what? I think if Cam Newton was a guy that was a good leader, like someone you could follow as far as being a backup, I think as he was a starter, Like, he could kind of take Trey under his wing if he was the starter and Trey was behind him, but I don't think he would be a good backup. I think he would always want to play. That is something he'd always want to do, and so I think he wouldn't really help Trey in that manner. I also question his arm strength. I mean, ever since he injured his shoulder, I mean, it looks bad. I mean, it looks like he's really struggling to get the ball out. He's still one of my favorite players. You know this, Alex. I loved him when he was coming out of college. I think he's dynamic with the ball in his hands, but the arm is definitely not there anymore. So for the price is right, potentially, but he would have to understand his role, that he would be the backup quarterback for Trey Lance. And I honestly believe the 49ers think that Nate Sudfeld is going to be their backup quarterback. They could potentially draft someone or sign someone else to a very low contract, maybe a Nick Mullins, for instance. But I do not think that it'll be Cam Newton in the end.
I don't think it's going to be Cam Newton in the end. And that's not against Cam Newton. As a big Florida Gator fan and as a guy who Cam was originally at the University of Florida behind Tim Tebow, loved Cam Newton. I was a big Cam Newton guy and supporter. It's injuries, man. He's not healthy. He's not right. I don't think he can get healthy and can get right. When you mess up your shoulder like that, and you already had kind of a wonky throwing motion, wasn't necessarily the cleanest throwing motion in the world, and you generated a lot of power with your upper half, and you hurt the lever point, right? The leverage point in which a lot of that force is being generated, you're not going to be the same. And that's Cam Newton right now in a nutshell. And it's unfortunate because, he gets kind of cut down in what felt like he was prime, and it was still him coming into form and becoming the quarterback I think that everyone thought was going to be dominating the league for years and years and years. It happens after he wins an MVP and is starting to get into his own. He's still a young guy. It's truly unfortunate, but it's the reality. And I don't think it'd even be a good option. Even if the money was right, I don't necessarily want it because I don't think Cam Newton can win you football games anymore in the NFL. And that's hard to say. It truly is. It's really hard to say. Travis Cooper, what about Julio Jones? Might come to the Niners. Kyle has been wanting him since last year. Julio's always an option. The only thing I can think is because of the injuries, and it is an extensive injury history at this point, the last 4 years, maybe he's willing to take less. But Julio's still a big name, and I think if Julio's healthy, everyone knows what Julio is, and so someone's going to be willing to pay him.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay will be willing to pay him, and add him there. Tom Brady definitely reached out already, so I think Julio's going to have suitors. I think Kyle Shanahan will make a phone call and see where he's at and where his mind's at, because if you could bring him in at a low cost, if he's your third receiver, he does different things than Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, so he wouldn't have to play as many snaps, but you could get big potential, and he's one of those guys you can count on, and what's better than giving Trey Lance another huge target to be able to throw the football to? He is an improvement over Jawan Jennings. So anytime you can add an improvement over to one of the guys on your team that you count on, then you've got 4 good receivers. And now it's an arms race in the NFC West as far as receivers go. Maybe they'd reach out to him. I think the other one to watch, of course, is tight end Austin Hooper, who the 49ers could possibly work with. He's a good blocker, but he can also catch the ball pretty well. He would be a nice improvement in that tight end room, and I think a signing of Hooper, especially if it was a cheap deal behind George Kittle, could definitely stabilize the tight end room going into the season.
Very true, Ant. Very, very true indeed. Jimmy wisely not watching social media. Jimmy has just not been on social media at all.
No, he hasn't really. I mean, besides the Levi Jeans commercials or whatever it was that he posted.
Oh, and the Subway stuff.
Yeah, he really doesn't do anything with social media.
Very true.
It's smart.
He is very smart, and it's kind of better, in all honesty. Another guy, Ant, who doesn't spend a lot of time on social media? Charvarius Ward.
Yeah.
Charvarius Ward doesn't spend a lot of time on social media. I know he's recently been tweeting since he signed his contract and since free agency's been going on, but he's not even verified on Twitter, Ant. Not even verified. He's one of them. He's a normie. He's like the rest of us.
Maybe he will get verified now.
He might at this point, Ant. He might at this point. That press conference was absolutely fantastic by him. Everyone else involved with it, not so much, but he was absolutely phenomenal. Raiders for Julio, says T.O. I don't think there's any way. I don't know how. I say this, Ant, but the salary cap don't exist, right? So the Raiders can sign just about anybody they want at this point.
Yeah.
Nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense.
I don't think Julio's going to the Raiders. I think the Raiders made their big money moves.
I agree with you on that.
Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones.
That's very true, and I think that's what it feels like also. Tommy Huxley says, Street is trash. I know someone earlier had come in. It was probably a Saints fan saying Street was going to end Lance's career. Okay. I don't know how, but all right.
Well, we know it'll start with the bull rush.
That's true.
So, I mean, if it's Aaron Banks against Kentavious Street, I feel pretty good about our situation because Banks can actually anchor down. If it's him versus Brunskill, I would just suggest Brunskill cut him. To me, I'm not really worried about Kentavious Street overall. I think he's a good guy, but
There's a reason the Niners didn't tender him.
No, I mean, he's a nose tackle who's decent at run stopping sometimes, but most of the time when he gets double teamed, he gets beat. So
he gets beat bad too.
Yeah, so no, I mean, I feel very comfortable with Ridgeway. Very
true, and very, very comfortable with Ridgeway as well. Like the potential there and the possibilities there. Nerman said, really curious about the O-line plan. I think we all are. I think we're all curious about what the O-line plan is. We thought it was going to potentially be Tom Compton. No, he's gone. He's not even available for the San Francisco 49ers. Daniel Brunskill's been tendered with a rights refusal, so a first right of refusal. So, I mean, the Niners, no one's going to overpay for Daniel Brunskill, so Daniel Brunskill looks like he's coming back. Maybe the plan is just Jalen Moore, Justin Skule, Aaron Banks.
To be honest, it sounds like
Colton McKivitz.
It sounds like just take out Laken Tomlinson and insert Aaron Banks. And that is your 49ers offensive line. They're going to run it back with McGlinchey, with Brunskill, Alex Mack, Aaron Banks, and the big man, the one we can really count on, Trent Williams. So that's what it sounds like to me, with Justin Skule and Jalen Moore being in competition for the swing tackle spot. I think they would give Moore an opportunity to beat out Daniel Brunskill for the guard spot. So that'll be a competition to watch. And then you'll have Colton McKivitz also as another lineman. And Jake Brendel, who was the backup center all year. So those are guys. Brendel is also a possibility to get some run at guard. I just don't think he'd beat out Daniel Brunskill.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. I do agree with you on that. Tommy actually says Street's best play was a penalty. John Paul says, yes, Cooks equals speed. We need speed. I agree with that. I would love to have speed.
Yeah, and we do know somebody that knows that Cooks would love to get to a contender, and what his main contender that he wants to go to is the 49ers. Of course, he did mention Arizona. I'm going to keep it real.
Sure.
He wouldn't mind landing in Arizona too, but he saw Trey Lance in the game and last year when they played, and thought Trey Lance was just that good. He had a lot of respect for him, loved to play around near his hometown. Of course, he's from Northern California, right in our backyard, in fact. So yeah, he would love it, but he's got to get out of the contract there, or the Texans have to move him. He's still got 1 year left on his deal. So, that would be something they'd have to do, and that would incur some dead money. I believe it's $7 million in dead money, but they would free up close to $6 million. So if they decide to do that, then Brandon Cooks could be on the move.
Very much could be the case. Camirian says, Street's going to be learning a lot from our defensive coach. That's good. He was learning from the best defensive line coach in the league in San Francisco last year. So hopefully that pans out for you guys. I really do. I want Kentavious Street to have success. He had a bad stretch of luck with the San Francisco 49ers getting hurt a lot early in his career.
Yeah, no, Kentavious Street has finally gotten healthy over the last couple of years, and really just last year was his first year where he was healthy from beginning to end. He's a rotational guy. I mean, you don't expect any starting snaps, don't expect him to make big time plays, but he got, I think, 3 sacks for the 49ers last year. But that's, rushing with some really good players. I think he'll do fine for the Saints, but the 49ers definitely improved over him. So I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it also. Mr. Corey earlier had said nobody with $100 million, with $100 million and movie star looks is going to be spending their time on social media. Some do, Mr. Corey. Some do. Use it. Jimmy Garoppolo does not, though.
Some use it to get $100 million and superstar looks. Because, if you put money into your looks, all of a sudden you look different. Just saying, as well as I do. They used to say money can't buy love, but...
No, it can buy you lust, though. It can buy you some lust, my guy. That was absolutely incredible, by the way. $100 million can get you $100 million and can make yourself look like $100 million. Oh, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Whoo, hot diggity dog, bro. Shane, Arizona 49ers Empire. What running back do we pick up, or do you think Kyle and John go draft?
I think it's going to be bargain basement running backs. I would love.
Feels like
I would love for them to go Cordero Patterson. I mean, I think that's a natural fit. Everyone can see the fit. It makes a lot of sense. And then the two names that I've been saying the whole time, and I'll just continue to say them: Phillip Lindsay and Marlon Mack. I think those guys fit what the 49ers like to do. Phillip Lindsay has that explosiveness. And when he decides he's going to put his foot in the ground and get upfield, he gets through some little creases and he flies. I would love to see him in this 49ers offense. I think he would fit in very nice with what Kyle Shanahan likes to do. And then Marlon Mack is a proven commodity. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards in this league. He's a very balanced runner, very physical. Both those guys, I believe, together to go with Elijah Mitchell and possibly Trey Sermon, I believe would be a better running back group than we had last year. So that would be a nice move, but they'd have to, of course, go and get those guys in free agency. They could approach the draft. I think there are some good running backs in the draft. I just wonder how many of them are as good as the guys that are available on free agency, the proven commodities that already fit Kyle Shanahan's system.
I agree with you there, and I do agree with you on that. I did see here, Brad said, so you'd be happy with the wide receiver room consisting of Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, Landry, and Cooks. That's not a terrible wide receiver room. If you're looking at that room, you're thinking that Juwan Jennings is closer towards the bottom of that list, and I like Juwan Jennings. I really do like Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings would be the bottom of that list.
He really would, Ant. He would be the bottom of that list. So that's a positive thing for the San Francisco 49ers. Do I think that's the route they go? I don't know. You got to find a way to land Brandon Cooks in the first place. And as much as I want that to be the case, I just don't know if you can. But going back to what Shane asked about the running backs, it really does feel like bargain basement is the route the Niners are going to go. It feels like that is the best case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers. And that, the hopes and dreams of a Cordero Patterson going after a big name guy. I've seen a lot of 49ers fans. Well, can we at least get Melvin Gordon, please? Can we do something? Can we just assign one big name? It doesn't feel like any of that's going to be the case. It feels like, you may end up with a Matt Breida, and you might end up with maybe a Phillip Lindsay, and if the money's not too bad. I don't hate Phillip Lindsay, though. I don't think that would be a bargain basement. I think that would just be a bargain.
The reason I'm saying it's a bargain basement is because he didn't get a lot of money last year.
And he didn't do a whole lot.
No, but it's because he didn't fit into the right system. You need to get him into the right system, and Kyle's system is that system.
Accurate.
Explosive. He could have big plays, especially if he's the changeup from Elijah Mitchell. I think you'd feel good about that 1-2 punch. I'd keep an eye on that. We know last year there was the trade rumors surrounding Marlon Mack and the Colts. Now he's a free agent, so if the 49ers wanted to do that, they wouldn't have to give up any trade capital to get him. And, I think they would be interested. So I think there are names to watch. Lots of running backs available. So it's one of those things. You can definitely slow play the running backs. So far, the wide receivers haven't moved drastically fast either.
Nope.
There's a lot of
still a lot
of good names out there that the Niners could go grab. So they can improve this team. I think it just sucks that we're waiting on Deshaun Watson to make his decision. Luckily, he has kind of narrowed it down to 2 teams, so other teams can get involved in the Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes.
Very accurate, Ant. And Roll Simmons said keep Streets a couple of times. You can't keep Street. He's gone. He is with the New Orleans Saints, so
yep.
That is 100% unfortunate. John Paul just asked Cole Beasley, any thoughts?
You know what? I don't know about Cole Beasley. I don't think he really fits what the 49ers would do now. If Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback, his style of player made sense. We've seen this kind of the steady shift from what Kyle Shanahan did when he got here, where he had Trent Taylor and he had the kind of the smaller receivers that would operate in short spaces. But I don't think they'll go that route. I think that they'll let him go a different way. So I don't know where Cole Beasley is going to end up, but I think the Niners are going to look for a speed receiver, possibly someone with height, because they want guys that are really good blockers at this point. That's definitely where Kyle has shifted his attention.
You are not wrong there, Ant. There's a lot of things I like about what Cole Beasley could add to a potential table. The problem is that I just don't think it fits anymore with what the Niners are looking for. I think they're looking for that, Ant. And it looks like we do have some news. Cutback crew. Raheem Mostert has given his official goodbye. He's given his official goodbye. I figured we could read this on air. Man, I don't even know where to begin. To the faithful, you guys gave me hope, a purpose to become the best player I can be. We've rode the wave together through both good times and bad, from having my first ever recorded touchdown against the Raiders to breaking my forearm the following series, to having my record-breaking performance in the NFC Championship game, to playing in the Super Bowl and scoring a touchdown on the biggest stage. But unfortunately, coming up short. I came in as a kid with a dream and left as your starting running back, team captain, and with memories on and off the field I'll never forget. My family and I have loved the past 6 years in the Bay from the bottom of my heart. Can't thank you enough. All love, always, Mosterati.
All right.
Just like that, he was gone.
Yeah, he's gone. And, I seen Travis Cooper saying Maurice Hurst. Maurice Hurst is a good football player. I believe that he, just didn't get the opportunity because of injury, but we got to see him some in training camp, and he was doing a lot of work. His lateral movement, quickness is going to be something that's going to behold. That could be the option on the obvious pass downs. You could go with Maurice Hurst. He's a 3-tech that can get it done. He's not as agile or as quick as like Arden Key, for instance, because Key really does have the defensive end skills. But as a defensive lineman, I think Maurice Hurst is going to be one of the best pass rushers the 49ers have. Opposite, of course, Armstead. Armstead is just ridiculous. But, he's definitely somebody that I think the 49ers can be high on, especially if he can stay healthy. He can make an impact. We could be talking about him next year, in free agency, the same way we talked about Arden Key this year.
Very much could be the case, and 100% can be accurate. I believe we are content with the running back committee we now have in hopes of Trey Sermon stepping it up in year 2, helping out number 1 Elijah Mitchell and number 2 running back Jeff Wilson Jr. The problem is Wilson Jr. is not signed, Bobo. No. Wilson Jr. is not here.
Wilson Jr. is a free agent.
So right now the Niners have JaMychal Hasty, they have Elijah Mitchell, and they have Trey Sermon. That's what you have. That's what you have at the moment. I imagine there's going to be another name added. I would imagine it would be a veteran free agent and at the running back room, somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, even if they added Jeff Wilson Jr., I mean, there you go. At least there's 4, but there will be 4 or 5 running backs going into camp, and probably more than that.
I would say 6.
Yeah, I mean, usually you carry 5 to 6 running backs because they're going to go through so many reps in practice. So I think that they're definitely going to make some moves in this room, and veteran guys would be smart. Of course, you'll have some guys in the draft, but veterans make a lot of sense this year with Anthony Lynn looking to be the running back coach and Bobby Turner, who is really good at developing talent, taking a year off. I think, get some guys that are more proven commodities. And, one thing about Anthony Lynn, he played against Philip Lindsay a lot, so he knows who he is and what he can do.
Very, very accurate, and indeed that is the case. Tribe says, nice move, Green Bay. Might as well put the Rams back in the Super Bowl now. So that was the only team that was going to prevent the Rams from getting to a Super Bowl?
Well, the key is the Packers would just have to avoid the 49ers. That's their best option to get to the Super Bowl. No Rams fan wanted to see Green Bay in Lambeau Field.
Nope.
The 49ers were the team that could go in there and beat Green Bay in Lambeau. It wasn't the Rams. No Rams wanted to go in there and try to beat Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So, this is a big move. It does shift some of the power because I don't believe Green Bay now is as formidable force as they've been before. But as 49er fans, we don't usually worry about Green Bay anymore. Aaron Rodgers can't beat the 49ers.
True. It's true. Kyle seemed to cool on Jeff Wilson. I think the injury as well
I think
didn't help either.
No, I think so. He cooled on him because he wasn't able to hit that speed that he had before.
Correct.
You don't know if that's going to come back with the meniscus. I mean, it's the same thing with Marcel Harris. Marcel Harris is dealing with the Achilles tendonitis, so they went another route at linebacker. I think this is just something you have to do. When you're going to possibly have a nagging injury, you look at it. But I do think he kind of cooled on Jeff Wilson a little bit. And he definitely cooled on Trey Sermon as well, because he was not having Sermon get any carries at all.
No, not even a little bit. They weren't even trying to until that Eagles game where, Michael Hasty basically destroys his ankle after dropping a pitch. Tommy Huxley said, how many Pro Bowlers in the O-line from the Finns last year? Because a lot of people are saying the Niners, Miami, building their O-line, unlike San Francisco. When you're not a good football team in terms of establishing the run, you kind of have to. And Miami was terrible. One of the worst running football teams in the league last year. And you hired a coach that is renowned for his run game. So, of course, they were going to address the O-line and address the running back room. Makes sense for them to do those things. They're doing everything they can to rebuild and establish a culture and an identity there. I tip my hat for them. Megan just asked, too, do you think it's possible Niners already have a deal in place with Gilmore for when Jimmy is traded? It's always possible. But you're taking a risk when you do something like that, because at the end of the day, Gilmore could go, hey, guys, I got this from San Francisco. What can you offer me to another team? And someone could beat it or match it.
Well, I think it would also be leaked. I mean, his agent or somebody would put it out there, and Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport would be talking about how Stephon Gilmore has reached an agreement with the 49ers, and then they could just delay him signing it until after they move Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think so. I think they could have framework where they've had conversations with these players about potential contracts, but they're waiting to make a move. And I think if they wanted to make a move right now, there are other options, right? They could free up cap space by extending Samson Ebukam. They could extend Jimmy Ward and free up some cap space. Of course, Robbie Gould as well. So there are avenues for the 49ers to be able to kick the can down the road a little bit to bring in any of these high-priced players that they want. But so far, they haven't felt like it's necessary to do so. We'll see if they start, kind of getting a little fire under their butt after seeing some of the moves that the other teams are making, especially the Rams. I think they weren't really worried about it as long as the rest of the NFC has kind of been standing pat, like they felt like they had time. Let the AFC do the AFC kind of things. They're all going to beat each other. Only one of those teams is going to come out of the AFC anyways. So you gotta be able to get there and beat them one time. But I think they're just going to wait. But at some point, now that the Rams made a move, you'd think the 49ers are going to make some sort of corresponding move.
You would think that something leads to that. And Megan, I do appreciate you asking that question and kind of pinging me on that. Mr. Corey, I know you've asked it a couple times, but hard to scroll through it. We got 150 plus people in here. A lot of people commenting.
Yeah.
So we apologize. Hey, we're going to try and get to every question that we possibly can. If we miss something, just keep typing it. And hey, if you want to get our attention and you really want something asked, the best way to go about that, just super chat.
Yeah.
Hit that super chat. It's going to light up on the screen. It's going to pin here in our feed, and I won't miss it. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Can't be missed if it's super chatted, Ant. Rodgers had to get paid, so the cap money dictates. There's a couple other really good questions that I saw. I want to try and make sure I don't miss these, Ant. I don't miss these. John Paul, what about running back Tariq Cohen? I like him a lot. Definitely an option. Speedy, kind of shifty guy. Definitely would be an upgrade. And is going to be in that bargain basement category because of all the injuries he's been dealing with.
Yeah, it's another guy that if you're looking to upgrade from JaMychal Hasty, he's a third down back. So if you're looking to upgrade in that area, you can do that. The question for Kyle Shanahan will be, do you want Elijah Mitchell off the field on third down? Or, do you want potentially whoever you bring in to be off the field on third down? That is something he's going to have to decide. Because towards the end of the year, he started leaving Elijah Mitchell out there and playing JaMychal Hasty less. We know Hasty's going to be back, and he's one of those guys that can do kick returns. He can play third down. He can catch the ball in the backfield. So he has value. But anytime you can improve it, you do it. So definitely something that's there. Tariq Cohen would add definite value to the 49ers running back room. It's just, do the 49ers feel how much of an upgrade he is over JaMychal Hasty? If the money is not a big enough difference to kind of translate with the talent, then yeah, you make the move. If not, you just stick with JaMychal Hasty and get what you're going to get out of him.
Agreed with you there, and I have to agree with Brad, who tweeted out a couple hours ago after the interview with Charvarius Ward got done, that I think we all can agree, right, that Charvarius Ward is a national treasure that must be protected at all costs. You brought that up in the pre-show, and I figured Cutback crew needed to know it too. If you haven't gone and watched that, by the way, head over to the 49ers YouTube channel when we're done tonight with the live stream and watch that interview, because you can see the cringe he's feeling from the questions, but he has a good time with it. Fun personality. I like Charvarius Ward a lot already, Ant.
Yeah. I told I went on and commented on Wayne Breezy, something he posted, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to be getting a Charvarius Ward jersey. I'm just waiting to see what number he wears. I don't know if he's going to wear 35 again. But I would love to see him go with one of these single digits if one of them is available. Maybe we could get a single digit out of Charvarius Ward, or the perfect storm, Alex. He wears 14.
It's very true.
Actually, the perfect storm would be like someone like Brandon Cooks, who I'm a huge fan of, coming in and wearing 14. Yeah,
that would actually be perfect.
It's spectacular.
It's true, and I just saw another tweet just now. Every time Adam Schefter tweets, a 49ers fan weeps.
Not wrong.
It isn't inaccurate, and it is not inaccurate. It is the opposite of inaccurate, and it is extremely accurate at this point in time. So many things happening, and so many things happening, and feels like none of them happening for the San Francisco 49ers, and everyone is just in limbo, waiting for just anything to occur. I literally just thought Schefter tweeted something with information there, but no, unfortunately not. Nothing new. Let's get back to some questions, and let's get back to what the Cutback crew has to ask. Brad Jones asked a little bit earlier too. What about Smith, the Smith brother that backed out of the Ravens deal, Zadarius Smith? I think he is exactly like you talked about earlier. He saw the amount of money being paid to some of these defensive ends and is like, me, please. I want to get in on that information. I want that kind of contract as well. I think he saw what he was getting and was like, you know what? I cannot sign this right now. Go back onto the market, and someone's going to pay me closer to that.
Yeah, his deal ended up being very friendly. And so he looked back at the market after he seen what Von Miller got, after he seen what Chandler Jones got, and thought, no, I'm definitely worth a lot more money than this. I just gave up $16 million, in Green Bay. I need to be compensated, effectively, and Chandler Jones got 17.5. So I believe he believes he should get close to $17.5 million. So he's going to be out there looking for that money. I don't know if that money's out there. My guess would be the fact that he backed out from the Baltimore Ravens. He must have somebody that's willing to offer him pretty close to that. So I think he's a target that a lot of teams would like, but you don't know if he's actually going to, land, anywhere, because once he backed out once, you got to be kind of worried about him backing out again. I think this is the first time that I can remember that we've had 3 players back out in one season.
Very true. Tommy just said, Matt Breida, what has he done in Miami? Not a darned thing. And you're right. He hasn't done anything else other than when he was in San Francisco.
Yeah, he did. He didn't do anything at all, and nothing in Buffalo either.
No.
This is a guy that, basically since he got traded to Miami, I don't think there was a winner in that trade, by the way. Miami got nothing out of Matt Breida, and the 49ers have got nothing out of Colton McKivitz. It wasn't something that worked out well for either team. I guess if you want to call, Colton McKivitz's Week 18 2-sack performance something to write home about, but I think that Matt Breida, the one thing he has is elite speed. So if Kyle thought he could use him, he would. The problem with him is he fumbles so much, and we know that they care about ball security. So it's one of those things that I think you keep in the back of your mind if you need to fill out the 90-man roster or you can't get someone effectively that you want to get, but there should be other options that you go after.
There definitely should be and could be. SL Million says, I don't see anything wrong with what the Niners are doing off-season patience. I'm
okay. Yeah.
I'm closer to that boat, but I'm getting antsy at this point. I can tell you that right now. I'm antsy. I was good with no moves early portions of yesterday, and once we got about to the afternoon, I'm sitting there going, guys, the further this gets and the further this drags out, the harder time I have with it because of the names that are still available. And I truly believe some of these guys can really help this team and put you over the top. But again, if the idea here is that you believe you can go all in next year, and that next year is your opportunity because teams are doing it right now and spend a lot of money, and you know the cap's going up, so you're going to have the ability to overpay and spend if you need to next season, then I understand it. I just wish I knew what the plan was right now.
I don't like that. I really don't. I don't like when a team says, well, we'll give it a better go next year. What does that signal to your football team? You know, what does that signal to Trent Williams and George Kittle? I don't think George Kittle, went and restructured his contract so the 49ers can worry about next year. No, you're going in. They want to win this year. And every opportunity that you don't win, you risk the opportunity of never getting back. Dan Marino was famously supposed to get back to the Super Bowl. He never did. George Kittle is quoted in that Kansas City Super Bowl, I will get back here. Not so fast, my friend. You haven't gotten back yet. This is one of those things that, those 49er players really want very bad. And this front office has got to make moves. But because there's so many players still available and they're not just flying off the shelves, you have to feel like there's a little bit of time. And maybe that's what they knew, that this market was going to slow play. I mean, the Chandler Jones and all these guys have just came down the last 48 hours. So things have kind of slow played. So maybe the 49ers are sitting right where they want to, be. Maybe they have players that they still want to target. So we got to wait and see what happens with free agency. And it might end up being that patience was the best way. But we won't know that until we get, further along in free agency when they start making more moves. Maybe they're, middle road guys, or maybe they don't make any moves. And in that case, I think people are going to make their assumptions and beliefs about how the 49ers handled this situation.
I agreed with you on that. I really do think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
And Camarian, just my guy, take a chill pill for a second. Take a nice time out and then stop yelling at the mean ocean for like 5 seconds. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Look, and I think there's a lot of situations here. There's a lot of things the Niners could do. There's still a lot of time left, right? So even though the Niners haven't necessarily done anything at the moment, there's plenty of time and opportunity still. Someone had asked too, I forget who it was. I think it was Brad. He said, would you pay Mr. Smith or Zadarius Smith whatever they were willing to pay Chandler Jones?
So, I mean, obviously the 49ers weren't willing to pay Chandler Jones $17.5 million. So you got to think it's closer to $15 million. I think that Zadarius Smith would be an awesome signing for the 49ers. I just don't know if I'm willing to go that high. I think the $12, $13 million range is kind of the top money I would go for Zadarius Smith. Because of the health issues, Chandler Jones just got done, playing at a pretty high level. So I think Zadarius would be impactful for this 49ers team, especially operating across from Nick Bosa. I just don't know. I don't know. And this brings up the question, too. Do you go edge rusher? You got Samson Ebukam, or do you go with another corner? I think that's one of the conversations to have.
It's possible.
I don't know if they go either route. I think a lot of people would love for them to go La'el Collins, and play him at right tackle and move Mike McGlinchey to right guard.
Yeah, that's a very good one there. And Arnold Spears just said we can get Julio for a good price and sign Clowney. Clowney's not going to take a friendly deal, and he's not worth anything closer. I would not pay Clowney anywhere near what I would pay Chandler Jones as a Darius Smith, a Dante Fowler.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean, if Clowney's going to want $10+ million.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're going to give him 10 plus, then yeah.
100%. $2 super chat here coming in from Bobo Ant. We may be relying on our draft from here on out. That is 100% possible, Bobo. We could be looking at potentially drafting guys and drafting players that the Niners may feel that there's impact for. That could be the case. I know someone else has said too, Mr. Corey had said, the Niners really haven't had a success in free agency. Who have they gotten? Quan Alexander, Malcolm Smith, Jerick McKinnon. They've been better at lower signings. So he's saying the Niners are better when they don't go big, when they do the mid-level guys. And in the bargain basement guys is where they tend to have more success. And who knows, maybe that's what their thinking is right now as well.
It could be. I mean, just because you don't, though, it doesn't mean you shy away from it. I mean,
it doesn't mean you shouldn't.
Yeah, and that you shouldn't. I think that's a fact, though. They haven't had as much success going, with a high-priced free agent. I think a lot of times what they tried to do was how they were trying to entice players to the 49ers, where they were trying to build their roster, because it's hard to build a roster when you don't have players that want to come to your team, so you have to overpay a little bit. Now it's more of a destination, because they know that, the 49ers are a good organization to play for, and they compete year in and year out. So I think now it's a little bit easier to recruit players than it was before. So you don't have to overpay. And I think that the 49ers are being more strategic about it because they don't have to overpay. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how many high price guys. I always thought it was going to be one or two high price guys that were possible. And even then, I mean, just like with Charvarius Ward, I thought his number was going to be closer to 11 or 12 million than it is 14.
Possibly could be the case. Jaylee just said Cowboys going to throw the bag at Zadarius Smith. They could.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You lost Gregory, right?
Well, and they were all in on Vaughn too.
It's true. So that could be something that happens. Keenan Craig, I don't think people don't understand football. I think he's trying to say I don't think people understand football, and there are a lot of people who are freaking out for the wrong reasons. Right? They're freaking out because the Niners haven't necessarily done anything, and not because necessarily there's a plan in place or they understand what's going on. I've seen a lot of people talking about how Jimmy Garoppolo is holding this hostage, and this is Jimmy Garoppolo's fault. It's John Lynch's fault and Kyle's fault for signing Garoppolo to that contract and all of this other stuff. And it's like, well, you're trying to build a roster, and at the time the Niners didn't have a lot of options for quarterback. You brought a guy in and traded a second-round pick. That guy won 5 straight games to end the season, and it was either you're going to pay him or someone else is going to pay him. Your move, right? Whoever blinks first, and the Niners paid him. You paid him at that time thinking and hoping that this was going to be your franchise and future quarterback. So you make moves in the moment. Sometimes those moves are perfect, exactly what they needed to be, and in 2019, nobody was complaining. And sometimes they don't end up being the thing you want them to be, and that's what happens after, post-2019, where Jimmy gets hurt in 2020, he gets hurt in 2021, you don't get back to a Super Bowl, and you don't finally get over the hump. So look, you right, things are fluid. Every season is its own, right? It's its own little universe here. It's its own moves and decisions that are going to impact the future of the franchise. The Niners are currently what seems like sitting pat with the roster, but that's right now in this moment. Tomorrow, it could be a different story that we're talking about. 2 days from now, it could be an entirely different story. We could get to draft day and be talking about this team making some crazy moves and swapping picks for players that you're sitting there going, well, why didn't they just do this to begin with? Because you don't necessarily know what other teams are looking at in terms of need, where they value certain guys. The Niners are patient right now. That patience could pay off. It also could blow up in their face. Either of those things is a possibility. We're just going to have to try and wait and see.
Yeah, I think they're caught in a catch-22 where they're trying to wait for the Jimmy Garoppolo thing to work itself out, and then they'll be able to use the money accordingly. But this thing is dragging out a little bit, and they're not ready to blink. They haven't felt willing to blink. And there's still a lot of good free agents available. I mean, yeah, we've seen some big-time moves, but we've just talked about a bunch of guys that are available, whether they're edge rushers, corners, safeties, running backs, wide receivers, that are available that aren't off the board. Because there are other teams that are in holding patterns, too. Sure. Everyone is waiting for the shoe to drop. And once it does, I think it's going to kind of unlock some of the puzzles that teams are waiting for. Carolina just found out how they can use their salary cap space now. They're not going to be getting Deshaun Watson, so the money they freed up, they're going to use in other ways. Possibly, they could also move on from their running back as well. So I think it's one of the things where these teams were kind of waiting. Some of them were in a holding pattern, and now things are going to start working out. And hopefully, we'll start seeing the 49ers grease some moves. I don't even care if they're not big time moves, even if they're just securing a nickel corner, because I don't want to go into the season with Deommodore Lenoir being the nickel corner, and I don't want to go with a rookie corner as well. So I think that there's some moves that they need to make: safety, obviously, corner, potentially offensive line. We know running back now, and then wide receiver. This room needs to be filled out. I'm not saying you have to address it completely through free agency, but grabbing one guy seems to be something they're interested in doing potentially.
You're not wrong there, Ant. You're not wrong there. Just keep in mind, I wanted to put the Deshaun Watson situation in perspective for people, because I know you mentioned, right, that someone had said he was going to take the weekend and push it into next week. The Falcons were taking the salary for the $7 million roster bonus that was supposed to go to Matt Ryan. I think it was tonight, was it not? Is it tonight or tomorrow?
Friday.
It was supposed to be tomorrow. So the roster bonus that was due to him, and it's being pushed now to Tuesday. So everything's getting kind of pushed back. In other news, it is now being reported that Michael Thomas and Deshaun Watson have the same agent, which apparently wasn't information that was well known by everybody. So now everything is in a tussle. Well, now it's the Saints. There were people who were saying the Deshaun Watson to the Falcons situation was being announced in a few hours, literally at about 4:00 today, Ant. So this situation is nowhere near resolved. And if you're the 49ers, you hate to see it. And if you're a 49ers fan, Ant, it's driving you up a freaking wall.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a holding pattern. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They got to decide what they're going to do. And, I mean, I'm
Spy v. Spy. We're pretty much done with free agency. No, free agency is not anywhere close to it's day 2, man.
Yeah,
it's day 2 of free agency.
I'm pretty sure free agency is still going pretty strong.
I don't think it's going to end Friday either or Saturday.
No, it won't end all the way. I'm sure they could even sign, all the way to the draft even.
Can they sign guys through like OTAs and training camp and are free agents always available to sign?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, free agency just getting going. I mean, yesterday was literally the first day of the league year. So I think this is going to be something that's just continuous. So
very true.
I don't know. I think also it just appears there's so many players out there that this thing is not going away anytime soon. And it feels like the NFL just keeps hitting like certain moments in time with big blockbuster moves. Like they're just waiting and waiting and then boom, hits you with something big. I do think that more is coming. And I think eventually the 49ers are going to get involved in some of this. Just what avenue are they going to go? Is it going to be because they moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo? Or is it going to be because they had to restructure and extend other players to create that cap space?
Very true, and very true indeed. Marvin Rose here with a great comment. Stats do not win a title. You can sign all the names that you want. You can bring in all the pieces you can want. You can swing for the fences in free agency. That doesn't necessarily guarantee you a championship. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get there. There have been plenty of teams and a handful of teams that have swung for the fences in free agency, and it hasn't panned out. There's also been teams who've done that, and it has panned out. It's a crapshoot either way. It's 50-50.
Right.
You can bring in all the pieces, but the pieces have to fit the puzzle. And if you're not able to put the puzzle together in time, when you need to, if you're not playing the best version of football come playoff time, it ain't going to matter what pieces you have. If the puzzle doesn't fit and the picture's not made, you're not going nowhere.
It's also about fits. You have to find the right fit. You have to find the right scheme fit. So you have to make sure the player fits what you want to do. You have to have an actual plan for how you want to use that player. I think a lot of times they're just determining, what's the best route. And as free agency continues to go on, how many of these players' contract numbers are going to slowly tail down to where they're in your wheelhouse, where you're able to go out and get them? Maybe they're attainable. I'm just going to throw a player out there. I don't think he's one of those ones, but let's say Stephon Gilmore, was seeking a big contract, and that's why the 49ers didn't go all in on him. But a week or two from now, he's still on the board, and his money drops down to where the 49ers could afford to bring him in and make it a cheap deal. Then you could go ahead and pounce on somebody like that. So I think as this thing progresses, you're going to get a better idea of who the 49ers are targeting and who potentially is going to go one way or the other, because some of the big spenders have went out and spent all their money. So now it's going to come down to the teams that were waiting, that were being cautious, and that are going to be looking for good deals and potentially, very good players that you can get a lower income. But I think this is something that's still to be watched over the next few weeks.
100% is. I just saw David Hasselhoff had asked about Fletcher Cox. I think he had also asked about, if I'm not mistaken, Lionel Collins and Gilmore. All of them are possibilities, but again, it comes down to money. It's going to come down to money. And right now, San Francisco is kind of hamstrung up against the cap. They haven't made any additional extensions or restructures. They haven't freed up any more cap space. They haven't done any of those things, which means you're sitting on a couple $1 million that you have, so you can't go necessarily spend on something unless you either have a deal in place, or if you're like a section of 49ers Twitter right now, you just cut Jimmy Garoppolo and free up the money that way.
Are you a little surprised that nobody traded for Collins? The fact that he had a $10 million cap hit, it was 10.1, but he's a very good offensive lineman. You probably could have got him for a 6th or a 7th round pick.
You would imagine.
So I wonder why, nobody made that move. Now, one of my guys, Dave, he told me that there's some off the field issues possibly with Collins.
Ooh.
And maybe that is something that teams would have to worry about. But I mean, now he's potentially going to end up with Cincinnati with the Bengals. So I thought he was somebody that was interesting. But I think there would be questions about Mike McGlinchey, because are you really going to, at that point, move Mike McGlinchey into guard and pay him $10.8 million to play guard? You weren't willing to pay Laken Tomlinson close to that. But I think there would be questions around that. So he would be a replacement for McGlinchey. Are you cutting McGlinchey? Are you moving on from him? I don't know. That's a big decision to be made.
That's a huge decision to be made. But as of right now, I think that the Lyle Collins situation, everything that's going on there, he's going to be in Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's looking at that and being like, sweet, we just got ourselves a left tackle from that, or a guy who can play tackle, either left or right. I know they just drafted a left tackle that they're very high on, but we have a tackle now that we feel very good with and good about. And I don't think they're going to let him walk out of there without a contract. I don't think there's any way.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, you are probably right.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Truly unfortunate, because I wouldn't mind him walking out and right into San Francisco, and the Niners take care of business there. But like you said, what are you doing with McGlinchey in that scenario, in that situation? It's a tough ask. It's a tough ask to move him onto the interior, and then also be willing to pay him the $10.8 million. I don't know if the Niners would do that. I think that in that situation, they may be, if they are truly content, right, with sticking with the O-line they had from last year and just taking Aaron Banks and insert in Lincoln Tomlinson's position, then I don't know if they'd be willing to go that route and move, a guy like McGlinchey on the interior. It would seem more like they would bring in Lyle Collins if they believed he was an upgrade over McGlinchey, and then you could turn around and deal Mike McGlinchey.
Yeah, I think that, you would have to cut or trade Mike McGlinchey if you brought in Collins. I don't think they're going to do that at this point. I would love to have Collins. I think he's a nasty offensive lineman that could definitely, fit into what Kyle Shanahan likes to do as a coach and a run style. But I just don't think he's going to fit. And I don't think he's ever going to make it out of Cincinnati. That's number one. This offensive line is interesting because the talk the entire year has been about Aaron Banks. And the conversation last year, Alex, when he was drafted, was primarily between us about Daniel Brunskill. Is he going to be able to beat Brunskill out? We had people come on the show that told us that, Brunskill wasn't going to start, that Banks was going to start week 1, and we kind of pushed back a little bit. My belief being that at some point Aaron Banks would take over during the year. Yours believed that Daniel Brunskill would start the whole year. You ended up being right, and Banks really hasn't stepped up to the point where we felt that he was ready to start, but we also haven't seen him since training camp. He didn't really get in there and get a lot of snaps. So I think his development is kind of unknown. So if the 49ers don't make a move on the interior offensive line, they have to believe, right, that Aaron Banks is going to be ready to go and ready to start. So maybe Banks is ready. Maybe we just don't know that. Maybe Chris Forrester and this 49ers offensive staff believes that they drafted 2 guys last year and one of them has developed into a starter, or maybe even possibly both.
Possibly. I think that is definitely the case, and definitely something to keep an eye on. Oh man, I'm just excited and anxious at this point. I think everyone is. I think every 49ers fan, and I think every member of the media. I know there are certain members of the media that are on pins and needles right now, and just want something to happen. John Paul just said too, what about Leonard Fournette? More of a power back, not really zone. However, plays some one gap. Leonard Fournette, we talked about this the other night too. Leonard Fournette is a back that can really kind of do a little bit of everything. I don't think while he may not be necessarily the scheme fit, he's definitely not the speed thing you're looking to add. He's a very dynamic running back that does a lot of things and fits in a lot of systems. The problem is he's coming off of an incredible 2020 playoff run and a really, really good 2021 season. He's sitting there going, the Jags moved off of me because they thought I was paid too much money. I just showed I still got it. He wants someone to pay him, I imagine.
You would think so. I mean, and he's going to get brought up a lot because he's over there in Florida working out with Debo and Jarvis Landry.
True.
So there's going to be those ties to the 49ers. I don't know if they'll be going after a more high-priced running back like that. I think if they were, that player would probably be somebody like Cordero Patterson. And I think if they're willing to throw a lot of money around in the running back room, they probably would have brought back Raheem Mostert. So it's one of those things where the running back room is interesting. I think there's some really nice targets that are still out there. Fournette's a dynamic player. I mean, he would fit in nice. He's got a lot of power. The way he would fit in Kyle Shanahan, system, especially in the gap scheme, I think would be nice. I just don't know if they're going to go that route. I don't think they're willing to pay a running back a lot of money, which would beg the question, if they are willing to pay a running back a lot of money, you would think it would be Patterson, or they would make the deal for Saquon Barkley, because apparently Saquon Barkley is still available for a 4th round pick.
I would agree with you there. If the Niners are going to be willing to spend money on a running back, the 2 names that make the most sense are Cordero Patterson and Saquon Barkley. If you're going to spend that money and bring in a name that you think can do dynamic things, you go out and get potentially Well, now at this point with Raheem Mostert off the market and things of that nature, one of the more dynamic dual threat options in Cordero Patterson, or you go get a guy in Saquon Barkley Ant that is a first round pick that is a generational talent, the running back room who's had some struggles staying healthy, plug him into the system with Elijah Mitchell and know that, hey, Saquon, you're not going to have to carry the rock 25, 30 times a game here, my guy. You're going to get 12 to 15 carries and not only like it, but it's going to extend your career. The problem is you're going to have to pay him $7.5 million to do that.
And a little bit of breaking news. It appears that there's a progress on a deal to bring Fletcher Cox back to the Eagles.
Boo!
So the Eagles cut him, and now it looks like they're close to working out a deal that'll potentially bring him back to Philadelphia.
I hate it. I hate every bit of it, Ant.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I get the idea, right? I just didn't think they were going to sign another high-priced guy. It would have to be a bargain basement guy to play in the interior. They already did it yesterday with Hassan Ridgeway. It felt like that was a move that they were going with. I think it's an edge guy. I think that an edge guy would make the most sense. Or like we said, Arden Key, Jordan Willis coming back. That would fill the role of the rotation that the 49ers had last year if they're willing to go that, unless they want to upgrade. You also have potentially you need to bring back a safety if it's Jaquiski Tartt or bring in somebody else. And then, of course, we don't know what they're going to do at the nickel corner spot, and that's just on the defense. So,
no clue.
I don't think they will go into the season with a rookie at nickel corner. I think they'll make some sort of move there. I think they could potentially draft another person if they don't feel Diameter Lenore is developing, at the pace that they were hoping. But right now, I don't think they're going in with a rookie to go against the slot receivers that play in the NFC West.
Nope, I don't think that is the case, Ant, at all. I think you're more likely to bring a guy like Jason Verrett back in, or potentially sign another big name corner and move Emmanuel Mosley maybe onto the interior on the nickel. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I think those are the most likely options for the San Francisco 49ers. I think I would prefer that, though. I would prefer at this point the Niners going edge rusher, secondary corner, or safety at this point with the next free agency move. I think one of those three things, with all the weapons that you're going to be facing in the AFC West, with all the weapons you're going to be facing in the NFC West with some of these teams, I think it makes the most sense. Let's address that corner room. Let's make sure we got guys out there who, if the pass rush isn't able to get home at times, you can have that balance between your front four getting home and blitzes getting home. And when you bring that pressure right and you bring those blitzes to make sure you can get after a quarterback in 2.5, 3 seconds, your corners can lock down for that 2.5, 3 seconds.
It's possible. I think that, recent history shows they'll probably go defensive linemen. That's just kind of how they handle it.
True.
But they do have some questions in other areas. The fact they only have two, wide receivers that were on the 53-man roster last year means they're going to have to make some improvements there. So there's some guys out there available. I think the 49ers would like to get someone that could take the top off the defense. So that's going to be something they're looking at. MVS is still probably their number one target and priority. But now with Green Bay losing Devontae Adams and trading him away, MVS return to Green Bay seems like
seems likely.
Seems more likely, definitely, because we know that Aaron Rodgers really likes MVS and wanted him wherever he was going to end up. So they now open the door for that situation. We'll see if MVS ends up there on a decent deal, possibly even Alan Lazard going back. So one guy that could be off the market for the Niners, but there's a lot of other players out there that could do the things that they need them to do.
I think the only question right now that's bigger or maybe as big for a fan base and as the 49ers, when will you move off of Jimmy Garoppolo, is are the Green Bay Packers with this trade of Devontae Adams finally about to draft some wide receivers?
Maybe. They do have another first and second round pick.
It's true.
My guess would be one of those is going to go to replace the Darius Smith. They'll probably get an edge rusher with one of those picks. And potentially they could get a wide receiver if they feel like one of these guys, is a guy that they need. And there are guys that are up there that potentially would fit in nice and, what Aaron Rodgers likes to do. Big guys with a lot of speed. So we'll see. We'll see what they do with the Raiders picks.
It's very true. SL Million just said Deshaun Jackson can take the top off for cheap. We've said this in the past. I think we've brought this up plenty of times here on the pod, including last year, Ant, where we thought the Niners should go in on Deshaun Jackson in free agency. I don't know if they will at this point.
No, it doesn't appear like they have
interest.
Yeah, that doesn't appear like they have done it. Even when he got cut from the Rams, they didn't seem like the 49ers were in on that at all. So he must not be somebody that Kyle Shanahan wants to work with. Maybe it's something from his off the field or his attitude or how he'd fit in the locker room. But it doesn't appear that Deshaun Watson is usually on their radar.
No, Deshaun Jackson not on the radar. And
did I say Watson or Jackson?
I don't. Wait, did you say Watson?
I might have said Watson. I'm getting so confused now.
Well, there's a lot of Deshaun's, there's a lot of Jacksons, there's a lot of just everything happening right now, except for the 49ers signing anyone.
I think Deshaun Watson's just on the brain at this point.
Well, how can it not be, right? If you're a 49ers fan, I mean, I get it. You want to sign names, but how can you not be pinpoint focused on the Deshaun Watson information and news? I've seen this in a couple of tweets. I've seen this in a lot of the Facebook groups as well. People have been like, stop talking about Deshaun Jackson. Start talking about the 49ers. You can't. The Niners have made it very obvious. Jimmy Garoppolo is the priority to move off of right now at this point.
Right.
That is the priority. And that's not happening until Deshaun Watson. I just did it. Yeah. Deshaun Watson picks a location. Until he picks a team and a deal is in place and everyone knows, like, there's nothing else happening, it feels like, for the 49ers.
Yeah.
Feels like nothing else is going to occur, which is crazy to think, but it's the reality, right? It's the reality of the situation. The Niners may be in a situation where there's nothing else going on until Jimmy's gone, until Jimmy's moved. And once Jimmy's moved, then we're going to know. And I keep hearing and seeing people saying the Niners have budgeted for Jimmy Garoppolo. The fact they haven't moved him means he's staying. There's a problem. You have to fill a 90-man roster. You have to fill a 90-man roster. You can't do that if you have Jimmy's $25 million on the books. You can't do it.
Well, if they decided that they were going to keep Jimmy, there would be the other extensions and restructures already happening.
Already happening.
Yeah, even though you say you've budgeted, what they've budgeted is to get under now, so that way they could eventually move him and recoup that money. I don't think there's any world where you're paying your backup quarterback $25 million. That's not what they're about. I mean, they're going to pay their backup quarterback $2 million, Nate Sudfeld. So I don't think they're going to invest that much money in the room, but they had to get under the salary cap before the league year to bridge until they could get this deal done. So at some point, this deal is going to happen. Now that Deshaun Watson has eliminated a couple teams, maybe the ball will get rolling. It doesn't mean Deshaun Watson ultimately decides when this happens. Maybe the ball will get rolling if Carolina gets involved in this possible trade, or even Cleveland. But we'll see. I mean, right now they've definitely decided that they're going to wait this thing out. And they're nestled in and just waiting for the shoe to drop on one of these teams getting back into the Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes.
And they're going to start. And they're going to start because the Panthers have been informed. Right, it's down to 2 teams now at this point. The Browns have torpedoed their relationship with Baker Mayfield and are saying they're not trading him, but that could just be posturing to make teams clamor for and want Baker even more. Even though I don't think that's going to be the case. So look, at the end of the day, I think the Niners are in a fine position right now. I don't think they're in a bad spot. I don't think they're in a bad place. But it's just not a place anyone wants. It's just not the situation. Marvin Rose asked too, wherever Watson goes, will he actually be able to play this year, or will a no-fun league suspend him? I imagine there's something coming because, even though he was found, well, he wasn't found not guilty, even though he wasn't charged with anything officially.
They just found out there was insufficient evidence.
There was not enough evidence to prosecute or go forward with a trial for him in the case. I think it was it 8?
8 or 9, I don't remember exactly.
It was either 8 or 9 of those accusers. Just because that happened doesn't mean that the NFL is not going to find him at fault for something, whether that's just putting himself in that situation, the amount of allegations that came out. It's damaging to not only him, but it's damaging to the brand. And then they could decide, hey, you're going to sit 6 games. But if you're a team right now, okay, 6 games of a 17-game season, we still have them for 11. You still feel comfortable with those odds in those situations. Teams are going to take a chance.
Oh, yeah, potentially. I mean, you're looking to get a franchise quarterback. I think he definitely could get suspended because one thing they care about is the brand. And this has been a negative outlook on the brand. That's part of the reason they offered to put him onto the commissioner's exemption list because they wanted him out of sight and out of mind. Now he's back into the fray, and he's going to get moved, and the 49ers are waiting on it. But all the while, I think any team that gets him knows that he's going to get suspended. It's probably going to be, it could be as 6 games like Zeke got for his type of situation, but it could be as much as a year. You just don't know what they're going to ultimately decide. But I think any team that is trading for him knows the potential risks and are willing to take it because the long-term risks of him playing as your franchise quarterback outweigh the possible risk of him missing a season.
It's true, and I just realized we had a nice quote fest going on between Daniel Harley, Tommy Huxley, and a new guy, James Sparrow, in the chat. They were just straight up quoting Ace Ventura.
I love it.
Just laces out, Dan. You want some lemonade, Dan? You want some refreshments, Dan? Do you want some refreshments, Dan? Good stuff there in the chat, you guys. The quotes you're just all over it. Absolutely. Nicholas Hernandez, who would you rather have, Ant? Baker or Jimmy?
I'd rather have Jimmy.
I don't know why anyone. I know why some people may want Baker Mayfield, but we've already seen what Jimmy Garoppolo has done. Baker Mayfield has not replicated that with a team in Cleveland. He hasn't done that. Jimmy has shown he can operate an offense, check you in and out of the right plays. He can win the game with his arm at times. He does make risky throws, but those throws pay off. You operate over the middle of the field well. Run games are fine. Jimmy has shown that he can help lead a team and keep a team on the right course to get to a Super Bowl and get to an NFC Championship game. Baker has not.
They are both in offensive, quarterback-friendly offenses. Both had good run games. Both had good defenses. Yet one of them won football games and one didn't. Is Baker Mayfield supremely more talented than Jimmy Garoppolo? Probably. That's why he got picked first overall pick. But Jimmy Garoppolo is a better winner and a better NFL quarterback than Baker Mayfield is proven to be right now. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say Jimmy Garoppolo every day of the week. I did see that some of the league sources were saying that they believe Baker Mayfield is worth maybe a 2, possibly a 3, is what the early indications of his trade value were. I don't think that's very far off what the indications were what Jimmy Garoppolo was. So they might actually be valued pretty close to each other.
They could be this. They may be the case, and that could be the case as well. Ray says Baker looking for a new stadium to clean up and to shoot progressive commercials, and you might be right. I would love, in all honesty, what I really want is the Browns situation to continue on, for Baker to stay in Cleveland, and then to see what those progressive commercials look like next year. I mean, what would those progressive commercials look like next year if he's still in Cleveland?
I don't know.
He's no longer at the stadium,
since he's a child, is he going to be at preschool? I mean, is that what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, what are they going to think of? Is he going to be riding the school bus, What
are you doing, Baker? I'm just looking for a new home. You guys heard of any? I heard Progressive has great rates.
I think this is going to be interesting with those. You would think that at some point, right, Baker's just got to make it known that he needs, continually, just over and over, that he needs to move on. I don't know if they can get that relationship back together.
No, it's gonna be tough. Baker feels like the Browns going into this they're claiming they told him and his agent they would only pursue top tier guys. They would only look at Deshaun Watson, all of this stuff. They said they informed him that they were going to go talk to Deshaun Watson. What people forget is the Browns also came out and said that Baker Mayfield was their quarterback, and then they weren't going to be looking to upgrade the quarterback room before the season ended.
I just want you to think about what you just said. And now let's put Baker Mayfield out of the picture and put your girlfriend or your fiance. And you're like, you know what? I like you, but if I ever have a chance to get one of those top tier girls, I'm gonna go try to do that. And then if they shun me, I'm gonna go back and be like, no, it was always about you.
Baby, I love you.
Yeah,
baby.
That's how Baker's feeling. He's feeling like that girl right now whose man just stepped out and is trying to come back when their advances weren't reciprocated.
It's very true.
Yeah,
it's very true. And David V says, "Hey, fellers, say hey, man,
hey, what's up, David? How's it going?
Good to see you, my guy.
Yeah,
good to see you." Here's the thing, right? I don't blame Baker for being upset. Is he necessarily handling it the best? No, but how are you supposed to handle it? What is the proper protocol for handling said situation in the right or wrong way? I'm not the knower of those. I don't have the answers to those questions, Ant.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, both sides are not handling this very great. The Browns have not handled this necessarily very great. But you also understand why they're doing what they're doing. They don't think Baker Mayfield is a franchise elite quarterback. So they're trying to make sure they can go get one, right? What did Kyle Shanahan say? You either have one or you're trying to get one.
Yeah.
The Browns are in that boat. The problem for the Browns is once you've made that very clear, unless you got a quarterback who is a Tua temperament, who is a Jimmy Garoppolo temperament, you are opening up a box that you cannot close.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Baker's not happy. I think the Browns tried to stay out of the Deshaun Watson thing as long as possible and get in late. I think their hope was they were going to be able to seal the deal. Now that they aren't, they're going to have to deal with the repercussions, and one of those repercussions might be a different quarterback. I think Stefanski's offense would actually be better with Jimmy Garoppolo under center than it is with Baker Mayfield. So I think that is something that could happen. I mean, they could always throw themselves into the Matt Ryan sweepstakes if he chooses to go to Atlanta, or Jameis Winston, I guess. But it seems like one of these teams is still going to be needing a quarterback, and Jimmy Garoppolo is the guy that's available.
Possibly the case. NYCE, Baker needs to call Jimmy, and Jimmy can give him some advice, LOL.
So could Herm Edwards. Don't push send. Just don't do it.
Push send. Don't do it.
Nothing good happens when you push send tonight. Just don't do it.
Agreed. And Gary, 49ers Fogey, are one of our incredible mods here. Absolutely right. Did you forget to hit that like button? Did you forget what it looks like? If you did, it's just a thumbs up. Hit that thing right now. Help support this channel. Subscribe if you're new here. If this is your first time here, or you've been coming back for a while now, hit that subscribe button right now. We're trying to get to 3K by the draft. We appreciate all the support, all the Cutback crew, and who's been tuning in basically daily, nightly for these streams and updates and free agency. I really wish we had more news, like breaking news, 49ers news to talk about, other than the Niners losing Kentavious Street and losing Trent Sherfield today. But unfortunately, that gosh darn Deshaun Watson, man. That gosh darn Deshaun Watson, he won't just pick a place, Ant. He wants to take the weekend. What an absolute jerk.
Yeah, I mean, does that mean everyone else just takes the weekend too? The whole NFL is just like, you know what, we're going to take a break? No, it doesn't, because Devontae Adams just got shipped to the Raiders. So there's going to be lots of moves that are going to happen. Potentially the 49ers could find other ways to build this roster. They could agree to terms with other players before they move Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think there's going to be conversations to be had. But yeah, we're definitely hoping it was going to be a little bit more of an aggressive day for the 49ers, that finally Deshaun Watson would make his deal, or finally it would become clear that Jimmy Garoppolo gets to get moved. I think now with Carolina entering the fray, at least the 49ers have another team they can play off of. So maybe this will move Indianapolis in the way of getting a deal done, because I think Ballard and Lynch are just staring each other straight across, telling each other what they want, pumping their chest, but neither one of them is willing to go across the street and reach out and make this thing happen. So we'll see what happens, but right now I guess no news on the 49ers front.
It is literally an old Western standoff, and you just got two gentlemen with hands at the ready to quick draw. The only problem is, Ant, it's a quick draw with a pen to sign, trades and draft picks and things of that nature for a player, and neither one wants to blink right now. It's frustrating.
We got a question from Matthew Rowley, and I think it's interesting.
Okay.
He says, am I the only one that thinks the wide receiver core is fine? The thing with it, Matt, is that the 49ers only have two guys under contract right now. And I'll throw Jawan Jennings in there because he's exclusive rights free agent.
He is going to resign.
It's going to resign. That's a foregone conclusion. But the problem is, behind them, the next best receiver is Keyshawn Johnson, that was cut by Arizona last year, that we signed on a futures deal. So they do need to address the wide receiver position. If you say you're okay with Jawan Jennings being wide receiver 3, I don't think anyone argues with that, but they do need to fill out the room. I would argue, in fact, though, that if you can improve, and my way is not so much improving off Jawan Jennings, but improving the room with a different style of threat. And right now, the Niners are in need of a speed threat. My perfect scenario is adding a speed threat and then adding a guy with a lot of wiggle, someone that can create in space. And that can also handle your punt or kick return responsibilities. So I think that is the avenue that I believe, and I don't know, Matthew might believe the exact same way. I'm curious what his thought process is. But yeah, a lot of people are steadfast. They don't want to, they have Jawan Jennings now. We don't need anyone else. But, we're going to carry 5 or 6 wide receivers on this team.
You got to think it's going to be close to that, and you got to think, heading into the 90-man roster, into OTAs, you're going to try and bring in 8 or 9 guys to cut that down to and from. The Niners had that last year. They had about 9. They cut down, 4, I believe is what it was, to get down to those 5 wide receivers.
Yeah.
One of them, unfortunately, being Jalen Hurd, who then ended up going on IR, which was just sad to see. But the Niners are going to do this. They're going to try and fill out this roster. They're going to try and fill out those positions and add depth across the board. That's all they can do, Ant. They have to do that. You can't just sit on. The things you have and the things you are. You have to try and improve. Right now, the Niners are sitting. Is that because, Ant, they're hostages? Is it because they know the market's a little crazy right now and they're just biding their time, knowing they got to move up a Jimmy Garoppolo and the pieces are going to fall into place? Or are they sitting there truly believing there's just gold and diamonds everywhere in the draft? And you know what? We got 9 picks, and who cares what happens in free agency? We're going to strike gold. We're going to get rich off the draft this year.
Well, they currently, I believe it's 6 wide receivers that are under contract.
True.
Most of them are practice squad worthy. We do know they're going to get that up to 10 to 12 by the time training camp starts. You have to have that many guys to run the routes and everything that you need for your wide receivers. So they're going to sign guys. The question is, who are these guys going to be? And I think really what it comes down to is money. And anytime that you believe that you can add a player that is a big-time benefit to your team, especially the way that Kyle Shanahan operated at a more full wide receiver sets last year than he'd ever done because of Deebo Samuel, I do believe there's a potential that the 49ers can go out and add, more wide receivers in free agency, and then it's still addressed in the draft. Early on, I believe they should make one signing in free agency and then draft 2 guys. But because of draft positioning and how these wide receivers are moving, maybe you want to take 2 guys in free agency and draft 1. So I think they will pick up 3 players in some way or one way or other and then fill it in with kind of cheaper veterans. But they do need to make some moves in the wide receiver room because to me, it's just not settled.
No, it is not settled. You know what else isn't settled, though, Ant? Pretty much a lot of other positions for the 49ers. Running back, not settled. O-line, not settled. Secondary, much improved, but not settled. Safety room, not settled. D-line, whether that's interior, if you feel like they need to go get, or whether it's edge rusher, not settled. And it feels like the Niners have holes everywhere that need to get plugged, and so far they haven't necessarily plugged them all in free agency, but there's still plenty of time for them to plug it. So, Cutback Crew, let us know, too, which ones you think the Niners should address next. What position should they be looking at next, or is it like kind of like where I'm at? I want them to address positions, but I know there's no reason for me to get my hopes up about positions being plugged at the moment until Jimmy Garoppolo gets traded. I would love to hear from you on that. One of the talking heads on the NFL Network, a former player, said teams always overpay during the free agency period, said Marvin Rose. And it's true. There are definitely teams that do. And really bad organizations, bad football teams like the Jaguars, right? Teams like the Giants, teams like the Jets have had to significantly overpay for players in the past. It's something they've had to do. And a couple of them have done that this year. They've gone out and paid hefty sums of money and have had to cut some fat from their own rosters in order to make room for these new people they brought in.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you can make bad decisions in free agency. I mean, you can go full Jacksonville and you can overpay everyone. And we've seen the 49ers do the same thing over the years, especially in 2017 when they brought in Pierre Garçon and players like that. Of course, we had Quan Alexander. I really liked Quan. But the emergence of Fred Warner as an all-pro caliber player, and then, of course, the drafting of Dre Greenlaw, who ended up being a very good football player, made him not as useful as he could have been. And then, of course, you couple in the injuries, and he ended up being a not such a good signing. So I think that the Niners have struggled a little bit. They've had some bad luck as far as bringing in players. I think they've attempted to bring in a lot of impactful players.
True. So
maybe they're a little leery. It's not always the best avenue to go. But it has worked for some teams. I mean, you've seen the Los Angeles Rams that have used free agency and trades to be able to build a team that could win a Super Bowl. So I think sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think the 49ers are just learning when to be more calculated and when not. But at some point, you would think that some of these guys are going to get to the level which the 49ers can sign them, because we know the Niners do put values on each one of these players.
It's true.
They do put values on the positions. And when that number meets the position, that's when the 49ers strike. Of course, it would help if they had a little bit more extra money to be able to spend on these potential free agents.
Just a little bit extra, Ant. Yeah. I'm not asking for a lot, just a little. Nerman had asked a little bit ago, I like Lynch, so I've been wondering, is it true that he really said no to a second and third round pick for Jimmy G? I haven't heard second and a third.
No.
I've heard there was a second on the table. I have not heard a second and a third.
Yeah, I heard last year during the draft they were offered a second, and I heard that John Middlecoff had said that he heard this year the 49ers were offered a second. I have not heard a second and a third. I believe if it was a second and a third, they would have a serious conversation, because I think they could just throw in the fact that, hey, if Jimmy Garoppolo plays 70% of snaps for you, that 3 becomes a 2, and I think the deal would be done. So I don't think that has happened yet, but I could be wrong. I haven't seen that officially come from anyone yet.
I have not seen that officially either. A couple people have been coming through, too, Ant, with what they'd like to see next. Frank Saladivar, my apologies, good sir, our GOAT tier member over on Patreon. He's saying O-line, seeing a lot of O-line, and a shocking twist, and a lot of people here, a lot of the Cutback crew wants the O-line shirt up. Eric Dane said the same thing. Mac won't play forever. They can upgrade from Brunskill. Bobo said the same thing. He does not sure about Aaron Banks. Marvin, same sort of thing. A lot of people feeling O-line is the way to go, and we'll see. Maybe it's a bargain basement guy that they go after.
We've got breaking news.
Breaking!
The 49ers, and I seen it get put on here, the 49ers and return team specialist Ray Mcloud is signing with the Niners on a 2-year deal.
Well, what do you know, Ant?
Yeah.
Breaking news. 49ers fans, Ray Mcloud.
Yeah, this is coming from Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. He's claiming, and we knew that they were in conversations with Ray Mcloud, so they do address the wide receiver position, going and getting Ray Mcloud, bringing him in that's going to help solve. So we were talking about the wide receiver position, but also a player that can add in the special teams game. So you lose Trent Sherfield, a special teams ace, but you add Ray Mcloud. You got to think that's going to help the football team a lot. This is one of those smart decisions, again, by the San Francisco 49ers. Well played. I like this move a lot, actually.
Agreed, Ant. That is a big special teams move. The Niners continuing to make special teams moves. Ant, and look at that. Just like that, cutback crew, the Niners have made a move, and it wasn't O-line. It wasn't O-line.
No,
the Niners go
O-line.
Wide receiver. They add some depth to the wide receiver room, and they add a guy who adds something in the return game, Ant. So a little different than the Trent Sherfield role from last year.
And Mcloud led the NFL in punt return yards with 367 and caught 39 passes for the Steelers last season.
Look at that.
So he's a guy that was impactful on special teams. And so if you're just looking at player for player, Sherfield was a great special teamer, but you got 9 catches out of him. Raymond Mcloud, great special teamer, with led the league in punt return yards, but they got 39 catches out of him. You got to believe that that's a net positive for the 49ers. So one of those smart moves. I wonder how everyone's going to feel about this move. It's not splashy, but a lot of 49er fans have been really excited about the potential of bringing in a return guy. So, Alex, now they finally do get a return guy.
I don't hate the move. I really don't hate the move. And this is about in the wheelhouse from what we've seen from San Francisco since the Charvarius Ward signing, right? Middle of the road sort of name, fulfills a need with the team.
Yeah.
Not anything crazy. I don't hate this. I think you and I both agree, right? Get Brandon Ayuk out of the punt return game. Let's get him out. This starts to open the door for that being a possibility of not seeing Brandon Ayuk return kicks.
No, this definitely means that. I mean, they're trying to pick up guys right now that fit the roles that they're looking for. We talked about this a little bit. I think literally 10 minutes ago, talked about having a speed guy and then also somebody that was more shifty, that can make things happen, in open space. Raymond McLeod's that guy. So now they just need that speed threat to go with the current core that they have, which they could address it in the draft. They could get MVS, for instance. They could get they could get Christian Watson in the draft. Both those guys fit as guys that can block, who are tall, that have good speed. And then I think you have a really good skill set around the wide receiver room. Debo, Brian Ayuk, who do the things that they do really well. But then you have Jawan Jennings, who's a possession receiver, who's going to convert on third down, convert in the red zone. Then now you throw in Ray McLeod, who's going to help you on special teams, but also is shifty and can make things happen when he gets the ball in his hands. Now all you need is that top-end speed guy that's tall, that can really take the top off, or someone like a Brandon Cooks. And I think then your wide receiver room is set, and you feel really good about those 5 guys. So I think this is a solid move. I like it so far.
It's not a terrible move, Ant. It addresses a need. It does things for San Francisco to shore up the wide receiver room, as well as bring in additional extra pieces and improve upon the room, right? Take something that was a weakness last year and find a way to build upon it as a strength. I know this is not necessarily the splash. I know it's not the big eye-popping move that everyone would love to see, but at the end of the day, I like this. What you can do potentially underneath, right? There was talk last year that Richie James needed to make the roster, right? Richie James needed to be a part of this. He needed to be the guy who returned kicks and, was someone who had a potential in the wide receiver room. Well, you're going after a guy who's proven it a little bit more in the return game, and in recent memory has done a whole heck of a lot more than Richie James has in an offense, and he did that with Big Ben.
Yeah, and I mean, Big Ben hit a lot of checkdowns and stuff.
Oh, yeah, he did.
But the key is getting weapons around Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance is going to be able to create outside the pocket. He's going to extend plays. You want to have targets he can get the ball to and they can create. This is a Kyle Shanahan thing. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, and now Ray McLeod. I think you're feeling a lot better about this receiver room. They knew they needed to bring in guys, and now they just did it. I think it's funny that we were just having this conversation. I like this a lot. This is a solid move.
I like this move, and I don't hate this move. Francisco Deanda, Ray, is he a good returner? Not a bad returner. I'm actually going to try and pull up the stats right now.
Well, he led the league in punt return yards.
Well, there you go.
I mean, there you go. I mean, that's the first thing. He had 367 punt return yards.
That's nice.
So that improves our special teams already.
Brandon Ayuk didn't have anywhere close to 330.
No, if you're playing complementary football, Ray McLeod is a huge advantage. But I think that's good. That's another good move for the 49ers. The 49ers are doing moves, of course, that aren't splashy, right? This isn't the big move, but this is one that's very smart and fits what the 49ers need as far as roster. Because when we talked about how this wide receiver room needed to be constituted, this is one of those key pieces that you needed to get. And you couldn't carry a guy like Trenton Cannon on your team as in the running back position just to be a returner. You needed somebody that could help you on the field and the plus side was a returner.
True, and kick return in the kick return game, 776 yards returning on kicks. So this is a guy who had all-purpose yards last year, was 1,400, and over 1,000 of that was in the return game, both as a kick returner and a punt returner. So you have upgraded the kick return and the punt return game in a huge way, and you've added in a guy who's 25 years old, who's speedy, and yes, he's a little bit on the smaller side, but you're hoping that this is potential. This looks like what, the Travis Benjamin replacement, essentially, in that role?
Yeah, that's what this is. I mean, they basically replaced Trent Sherfield with the linebacker that they signed a couple days ago, and then now they've replaced the return game issue, which was a real problem. You're not going to have to worry about Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk returning. They're going to be focusing on being a receiver, and now Rayburn McLeod's going to handle that situation. He was first in yards. He's going to be one of those guys that's able to do it. And welcome, new subscriber,
Francisco. Welcome to the TCC.
Deanda. Thank you very much for joining. So I think that this is going to be nice for the Niners. You're right. He's not a big guy, but he's one of those guys that's electric with the ball in his hands. And Kyle Shanahan likes these kind of guys. He's able to get them open. So you're hoping he's going to be an upgrade from the role that you had for Richie James, and the role that you've had for some of these other guys like Travis Benjamin. But I do think they still need a deep threat, someone that's going to take the top off, that is taller. Minus Brandon Cooks. He's the only one that's not tall that I'm willing to roll with. Because I think they need a guy that can go up and get the football. That's why I like Christian Watson, and I think it's why a lot of people like him. Or somebody like MVS, because you need a guy that also that can block. Because we need those situations to happen. Where guys can block but still take the top off. I think when Travis Benjamin was in, you're like, yeah, he can take the top off, but he can't block.
No, we cannot block. And $1.99 super chat there from Francisco. Thanks for the information. You're welcome, my guy. Breaking here, and it's not necessarily a big, huge signing in. It's not gigantic, as the 49ers fans in the Facebook groups would be saying right now, Ant, to me, and they will be saying here shortly as I'm posting the update in there. This is not breaking news. This is not important. Some people feel that way. I think you and I both disagree. This is breaking and huge for the Niners because it addresses a need. It addresses this special teams unit. It addresses depth. All of those things are important for San Francisco. Yeah. If we believe we have the pieces in Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Elijah Mitchell, and Trey Lance that you have offensively, and defensively you feel like you have the pieces in Fred Warner and Bosa, right? Armstead moving in on the interior, Charvarius Ward signing now as well, Dre Greenlaw, things of that nature on the defense, then you feel like you have weapons and a team that can contend and compete. So it's about being able to play all three phases of the game.
We got a super chat.
$5 super chat, actually, from Matthew Raleigh.
Yeah.
Y'all are keeping me sane while I review 150 contracts. Thanks. Keep up the good work. Way better than Grant. My daddy got me my contracts going. Oh, my goodness gracious, from Matthew Raleigh. We appreciate that super chat, my guy.
Super chat.
And Jag, right away. Yeah. Another $5 super chat here. And who do you think starts at left guard, Banks or Moore? Do we draft center/guard? Just want great protection for Trey. Signing Mcloud rules out Cordero Patterson, ? There's a lot there.
Yeah.
So Matthew Raleigh, again, thank you for that super chat, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Matthew.
And Jag, let's start with Jag's first question. And who do you think starts at left guard, Banks or Moore?
Banks.
Why?
I just believe that he played it in college. He played left guard. To me, he was the second round pick. He's the guy that transitions the most. The only thing that makes me pause is because Jalen Moore, when he played left tackle as a backup, he didn't feel comfortable playing right tackle. Remember, it took him a full week to get him used to playing right tackle. So he might not be equipped. They did practice Banks a lot, and we're trying to adjust him to right guard, but I don't think it would be a problem for him to go back to the left. So I think it'll be Banks on the left-hand side, and Jalen Moore will be in a competition with Daniel Brunskill, because it makes the most sense to me to keep Brunskill in his natural position until someone beats him out.
I don't disagree with you on that. I don't disagree at all. I think Banks has the edge up. I think he's the better run blocking fit right now. And the Niners have shown if you have a guy who's great as a run blocker and struggles in the pass pro sets, and a guy who's really good in pass pro and struggles in run, you're going to go with the guy who can run and establish your run game first. And being able to run the football is going to help Trey Lance out in a big way with play action and be able to take deep shots. Do we draft a center or a guard?
I think they could possibly. I mean, normally the normal rate is what they normally do is draft a offensive tackle. Somebody that has flexibility to play all the positions. We do know they're going to need an eventual replacement for Mack. So at some point they're going to have to replace Alex Mack. They could obviously do that through free agency, which has seemed to be the way they've went. Every single guy they've been bringing guys in, they haven't drafted anyone to play center. So Kyle Shanahan might prefer a veteran center. So I don't know if they're going to go guard. I feel like they've invested a lot in the offensive line in the last couple of years, but I think they will draft the best available offensive lineman when they decide. It'll either be the tackle or a guy that they believe is a tackle that could play guard and center. So those are things to be looking at. I do think they will address the offensive line. I'm just not sure if it's going to be somebody completely pigeonholed to playing inside.
Agreed. And Megan, $4.99 super chat, spread the love, Niners fam. And then David V. Ant with the $10 super chat, TCC. Let's go Niners.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. Thank you, David. We really appreciate it.
Greatly appreciate that. Just one great protection for Trey. Sign Mcloud, rule out Patterson. I don't think it rules out Cordero Patterson in any way, because what you're looking at with Cordero Patterson is a guy who can do a variety of different things as a running back option, as a receiving option in your system, and can still add in the special teams game as well. You can take some of the pressure off of Ray Mcloud. It doesn't have to do all of it, both aspects of it. You can mix and match the two in a different way. Look, at the end of the day, I don't think this rules it out. But as of right now, it looks like Mcloud, them signing him first, meant they're looking to fill certain things. And I don't know if necessarily right now Cordero Patterson's market's at a point where they feel like he fills a role at a price they're willing to pay.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how they view him. If they're going to play him in sort of the wide back type role and take some things away from Deebo Samuel, then it makes sense to pay him a little bit more than you would pay an average running back, because he can also line up at wide receiver as well. If you feel he gives you enough value, to be your fifth wide receiver now, with Ray Mcloud, with Jawan Jennings, that's what he would be. So I think in that area, Cordero Patterson makes sense. But you know what? It's just one of those things where they've made another move. I think Patterson would be on the list. I think Raheem Mostert leaving still leaves that door open. They definitely need another dynamic player. Kyle Shanahan saying Cordero Patterson is someone he's targeted for years means they're definitely in on him, but the money's going to have to work out. We'll wait and see what the particulars are on Ray Mcloud and what that financials are. But you would think an impending move is coming, right? They're going to restructure, extend someone, or they're almost clear and almost ready to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo.
It's one of the two. This could be signaling Jimmy is about to get moved. It also could be signaling Anthony they just used the last of whatever cap space they had left and are going to have to clear some space out here at some point in time. We're going to see. We're going to absolutely see what's going to happen in this case.
Oh, you want more breaking news?
Sure.
D Ford has posted on his Instagram page, and it's got social media going crazy. Him sacking Russell Wilson, and so he put #NinerGang with the praying hands. It appears D Ford fully plans on playing this year for the San Francisco.
Daddy, baby, let's go.
So, I mean, that is something.
Keep him healthy, man.
I don't know if anyone can get excited about that, but that is what is trending right now on Twitter in 49er land.
Blind vision. It is all signs are pointing to this is not cap, that Ray Mcloud is going to be in San Francisco. It is not a cap. This is reality.
Yeah, this is real. That he's coming. Most, the very credible sources are saying Ray Mcloud has agreed to terms with the 49ers. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, and of course, all the normal ones after that. I did see some of the conversations about Mike McGlinchey, moving inside. I think that's potential. My problem with it is $10.8 million to move inside. So I think if you're making a move on the outside and kicking McGlinchey in, you don't really want to pay a guard that much. The 49ers have showed they don't really value that. It appears that the Niners made some sort of a offer to Laken Tomlinson that was kind of lower than that, and so of course he had to do what was right for his family, but. Yeah, to me, right now, McGlinchey is the best right tackle option for the 49ers. It doesn't mean another one won't present itself, and then you can move forward. But Aaron Banks is probably going to be a starting guard. And I seen that. I'm sorry, I didn't realize who said it, but that Brunskill was one of the lower rated offensive linemen and offensive guards in the league.
David Hasselhoff is the one who said that, and right underneath that, Lou then talked about with the quad injury to McGlinchey, moving him from the inside might be a better option, and then make Moore the right tackle and Brunskill the backup is what Lou said.
The problem with Moore, and this is only from what we've seen on film, we don't know how he's going to progress, of course, during the offseason and getting better, was his run blocking wasn't on par with what Kyle Shanahan expects from his offensive linemen. That's why they had to go with other guys to play right tackle, including Tom Compton. That's why Compton beat him out, was the run game. The passing game, Jalen Moore is pretty sufficient, but in the run game is where he needs to improve, and Kyle Shanahan put such an emphasis on it. Until he has improved, he's not going to be able to beat out McGlinchey because McGlinchey's a very good run blocker. course, we don't know what he's going to look like coming off the injury, but you would think that if McGlinchey wasn't going to be ready, according to medical, they'd make a move.
Very true. And a $2 super chat from Nerman here. What have you heard is the best deal for Jimmy G, for JG, for Jimmy GQ? It sounds like the best option that has been on the table so far for Jimmy Garoppolo is just a second-round pick.
Yep.
That's it. That's the best offer that has come on the table. It sounds like it came from most likely the Colts, which is why the Niners aren't taking it and running with it. They're sitting there going, you gave a third, 2/3, a pick swap for a second with an escalator from a third to a second if Carson Wentz plays 70% of the games for Carson Wentz. You're willing to pay more for Carson.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're willing to move off of Carson to try and make a play for Jimmy, then you got to sweeten that deal because there ain't no way we're pulling the trigger on that. We're not desperate enough to pull the trigger on that, and you're just trying not to overpay. You're going to have to overpay if you want to bring Jimmy Garoppolo in. I saw Baymack also said, so I'm supposed to be happy for D Ford being our starter next season, ? Why wasn't he the last 2 seasons? He won't be the starter. He is your cleanup guy. We talked about this last year. The Niners had guys, their main guys, starters, and then they had cleanup guys who were coming in on big pass down situations, and that's what D Ford role was. Coming in third downs, kind of like what Arden Key is, what he turned into this past season. That's what you're looking at with D Ford, is him playing limited snaps, protecting him, not doing a whole heck of a lot of practices, but coming in on third down, third and long situations, and getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, he's a situational pass rusher. He didn't play very much this season, but he still had an impact with 3 sacks. If you go back and watch, I went back and watched, the first, 4, I think it was 3 games of the season. D Ford's first step is still there. And the impact that he made on these teams, because the pocket would absolutely collapse because him and Nick Bosa coming from each side is still deadly. But you're not going to get a lot of snaps at him. You're really not. So he's going to come in on third and longs and help you get off the field. If you do add corners, of course, like they did, you're going to be able to cover a little bit longer. That means him and Nick Bosa have the opportunity to get home. So it's significant in the fact that he intends to play. So we can kind of get an idea of what they're going to do after June 1. There was always the potential they could cut him, eat the dead money at the end of his contract, and just move on. The restructure was always inevitable because you save more money that way. But I think this just gets an inclination of where his mind is at. I think the 49ers are still going to treat it like he's not there, and then he'll just be a cherry on top if he is available, because I don't think you can honestly count on him after what has happened over the last few seasons. But if he could play, it could be dynamic for this 49ers defense.
Very much could be the case, and very well could be the case indeed. And no, I'm just excited about the potentiality and what he could add and what it is there. Look, I get a D Ford, not healthy, hasn't been healthy, can't stay healthy. I hear all of it all the time with D Ford.
Yeah.
But the reality is if you watch the film, and even this year when he first came back in, you saw the first step, you saw the explosiveness, the way he bends, the way he gets around the corner, that rip move he has. It's still there. His body has just kind of betrayed him at times.
Yeah.
It's very similar to Jalen Hurd. The only difference has been as D Ford has been able to consistently get on the field and then get himself off.
We got some financial money here.
Oh, financial money.
It is a 2-year deal worth up to $10.4 million.
Whoa.
So up to means there's probably some sort of escalators or something involved in it.
It's got to be dirt cheap this year.
Yeah, it looks like John Lynch is giving maybe a punt returner some incentives on playing, on what he has to do. So that is interesting. So we got 2 years, $10.4 million, or at least it could be up to $10.4 million for a wide receiver / punt returner, Ray Mcloud.
Absolutely going to be the case. Christopher Blankenship just asked as well, and what are we going to do at safety? We roll in with Hufunka is what he called him, but Hufanga. We might, but I think at the end of the day, the Niners are still going to bring a guy in. It makes sense for them to bring a guy in.
Oh, for sure. Right now they have 3 safeties that can play the position. I think Talanoa Hufanga needs to improve in the pass coverage game. He's very good against the run, but coverage-wise, he needs a lot of work. Charvarius Ward's coming off an Achilles. I think he would be somebody that you could think could possibly start next to Jimmy Ward. But I do think they need to make another move, whether that is bring Jaquiski Tartt back, bring in another veteran safety, go for a even a lower price safety that possibly you could get production out of, or address it in the draft. And what it could be is that they bring in a veteran and then they also draft someone and let these guys go compete. Because I do believe the 49ers want to improve the room, and if that is even with just Tartt, I think that is what they'll do. But Tarvarius Moore being back is still big for this defense because I think they always intended for him to take over at some point, but the injury prevented that from happening.
It definitely did. It kind of set everything back, and Niners are, not necessarily in a bad spot, but you're a little bit behind the eight ball because you're hoping to see more out of Javon Kinlaw in terms of development and where he was going to be at this point in his progress, and he didn't really get to have that. So now you're hoping to see that this offseason and see what happens. But 2 years, $10 million, that's a good chunk of money there potentially, Ant, that he could be making. We'll see what the guaranteed money looks like, I imagine, in the next 24 hours or so. Eric Howard, what are fair expectations for Kinlaw? That is a great question and a hard question to answer. Ideally, you want to see him dominating on rundowns, first and second down, early downs. The big thing for me is being able to defeat double teams, not just take them on. We've seen him take them on and not necessarily get moved a whole heck of a lot in a bunch. I want to see him defeating double teams.
Yeah. No, I think he needs to be able to win consistently. And there needs to be some major aggressiveness that needs to come from him. So I think that is something that needs to happen. I saw an interesting question, and so I'm going to go ahead and put it as Matthew Rowley was asking about Jalen Hurd. Do you think that the 49ers would potentially ever bring back Jalen Hurd?
My heart is telling me yes, but my mind is telling me no, Ant. It's telling me no in my mind. You cut him when you cut him because you're just done waiting and it's time to move on. It's time to go a different direction. My heart tells me they cut him because he wasn't going to be available. Maybe he was having some doubts in terms of if he wanted to be even playing football anymore. And they cut him to just get him away from the game and let him go figure out his body, his mind, where he needs to be, and if this is something he wants to do.
Well, I feel like we'll find out really quick, right? You got Mike McDaniel in Miami, Robert Saleh in New York. If he's really able and healthy to come back, somebody will kick the tires on him. We'll see, because not too many 6'4", 230-pound wide receivers that can play. A couple of positions are available. But it does look like the Niners have moved away from him.
Very true. And Lou also gave everybody the other thing that people really want, which is D Ford retires with prayer hand emojis. That is exactly how it feels with D Ford, right? It's either, oh my God, if he can stay healthy, what could he add to the group? And then everyone else going, that's not happening. Just please retire and save us money. We would really appreciate that. Look, it's a difficult situation with D Ford. It's a difficult situation with Hurd and what happened there. It's an interesting situation for the San Francisco 49ers with everything they got going on, Ant. But they are making some moves. They are doing some things. They lost a couple of guys today, and you just added someone back into the fold. You definitely upticked in the special teams category. You've signed a couple of guys now, Oren Burke and Ray Mcloud, that are definitely going to help your special teams group, and that you're pairing that up with Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you have done some things to address your special teams room in a big way.
Yeah, the special teams will not be the Achilles heel of the 49ers.
No, it will not.
New coach, new players to address the situation. Of course, they still have to fill it out, but they're making sure they're adding players that can help them in a multitude of ways. This is what you want them to do. I've seen some more of the conversation, too, about Kinlaw being able to disengage. That is something he needs to work on. When he gets locked in and he's trying to drive people back, if he gets double-teamed, he sometimes struggles to get off and make the tackle. I'm sure that's something they're going to continue to work on. And I wonder how much that has to do with the weaknesses in his lower half. If this surgery helped, then he's going to be able to regain all that strength because he is a big dude. So that's going to be something there. But I'm really excited about the Ray Mcloud signing. I was kind of wanting them to go in on Jakeem Grant or one of those guys, Isaiah McKenzie. So Ray McLeod is a nice choice. I like this. Getting him in there, I think he's going to be able to help the team. And I think everyone can be excited about the fact that 49ers are building their wide receiver room in a way that makes strategically a lot of sense. Now all they need to do is add the top end guy, the guy that can take the top off the defense that is a taller player. And I think that they'll be set at the wide receiver room.
Absolutely, Ant. I think they'd be very set at the wide receiver room. If this is your wide receiver 5, you're in a really good spot if you're the San Francisco 49ers. So now it's about filling out that room, bringing in some competition and bringing in some other pieces. We'll see, though. We'll see if the Niners are making any other moves and restructuring some things in order to sign some more players and extending some guys to free up more cap. And the Niners making this move for Ray McLeod, they truly believe here in the next day or so that Jimmy Garoppolo could be out the door. We've been sitting here saying, right? We've been sitting here saying what? The Niners have to wait for the Deshaun Watson situation, to wait for the Deshaun Watson situation to finalize before anything can happen. Well, what if now that Carolina is back into the fold, the Browns have torpedoed their relationship with Baker Mayfield, there is now enough conversation going on that the Niners realize a deal is going to get done here in the next 24 hours.
It could. I mean, they've definitely decided that they're going to move forward with their offseason plans. Of course, this deal doesn't have to become official until they sign it and submit it to the league. So they've got a little bit of ways to work this thing out. But I don't think they have the money free to be able to sign Ray McLeod without a move happening. I don't know what his cap hit is going to look like this year. So that means that
unless it's a minimum contract this year.
I wouldn't think so.
I would be shocked if it was.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's really low with a lot of escalators. I don't know. We'll see. But I think that more than likely this signals that a move is coming, whether that's an extension of one of these players, or that they think that the trade of Jimmy Garoppolo is inevitable.
Quest for Six said, is Ayuk a speed guy? He runs about a 4.5, Ant. He runs about a 4.5. So, I mean, he's about Debo speed, a little bit quicker than what George Kittle ran. He's not a slow guy by any means. Is he a break to take the top off the defense guy? No. Well, he can be a take the top off the defense guy, but he's not a burner, right? He's not a John Ross. He's not one of those. And Ant, we got to say thank you to Power Fitness. Just became a channel member here on YouTube. Welcome to the official TCC channel membership, man. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Power and Fitness. Welcome,
my guy, indeed. So look, Mr. Sweden said draft big receivers. There are many, and you're not wrong there. There are plenty of big, tall, wide receivers. I wonder if this means, by the way, Ant, that the Devontae Adams trade and then Packers getting that pick, if they're going to try and go after someone like Drake London.
Probably. I mean, that would make sense. If I was the Green Bay Packers, though, I would want to not go after a wide receiver again. I would go after an edge rusher to replace the Darius Smith. I know you got Preston Smith, but adding a edge rusher in a draft that is very heavy, you could get one of these very, very good football players. Because one of the things that Aaron Rodgers could really benefit from is having even a better defense. Because there's still guys in the second round like Christian Watson. You could use the Raiders pick, for instance, on that could really help your receiving core as well. So I don't think it necessarily means they go receiver in the first round, but it gives them the firepower to be a lot of different things to help Aaron Rodgers' team overall.
Very true, sir. Very, very true indeed. My goodness gracious almighty, Ant. Look, Gary's not wrong. He's been telling everyone, hey, hit that like button. I think there's some people who forgot. We got 180 of you right now currently watching. We got 69 likes. Let's get that number up. Let's get to Jerry Rice amount of likes. Get us to 80, folks. TCC, get us to 80 likes. Let's give some love to good old GOAT Jerry Rice. And, speaking of receivers and Ray McLeod, there's a lot of options for the 49ers. There's still tons of options out there for them to sign and go after and do things. Man, what was a stream that was loathing, Ant? It was all loathing and shame and frustration. Turns into, here towards the end of it, a glimmer. Glimmer of hope.
What I like is all the people that are leaving, are watching film while they're watching us or listening to us. Just like Ray said, and he said, McLeod's got a lot of speed.
He does.
There's some excitement there.
He's quick.
You can also use this guy on the reverses, the jet sweeps. There are avenues, the quick screens to get him involved in this game that are going to be so good for the 49ers. I think this ends up being a very solid signing for them. This is something that, it's been rumored for a few days now that Ray McLeod was in talks, about coming to the 49ers. So they pulled the trigger, finally got it done. Timing-wise, it seems like a good time because 49er fans needed something. I don't know how many 49er fans overall are going to be really excited about this, but I think potentially they could be once they see him operating in this offense.
Correct. And I joked, right? I said I was posting stuff to the Facebook group. I posted the first comment. What is a Ray McLeod? What is a Ray McLeod?
You're going to learn today.
You going to learn today.
Ray McLeod he's going to surprise some people. I think he's going to get his opportunity. He's going to make some plays, and I think a lot of people are going to be excited about what he offers in the special teams game for sure.
Very true, Ant. Very true indeed. Hit the like button if Kinlaw is a bust, says Baymac. If you're someone who believes Kinlaw is a bust, then Baymac says you should hit that like button. And you know what, Baymac? I may not necessarily agree with you, Kinlaw being a bust, but I do agree that they should hit that like button.
I think we're going to find out this year. I've been saying this for a while, that this is the year. And whether it's injury again or not, Kinlaw has to prove it this year, and he has to step up. DJ Jones left. They expect Kinlaw to step up and fill that role. And if he doesn't, then people can attach that bust to him because he was the 14th overall pick. So you got to get it done when your number's called, and we'll see if Kinlaw can do it. Because they said he's going to be healthy. I hope he is, because if we get a healthy Javon Kinlaw to go with the rest of this defensive line, they're going to be hard to deal with again.
Agreed with you. Power Fitness, by the way, said, yes, 49ers cutbacks have class. Actually, talk to the guys in chat. Don't get offended at takes on the team that don't add lots of sugar on top. Look, we're not going to. We understand there's different ways of viewing this. We all have different lenses. Ant has a different lens than me and vice versa. We both have seen the game in very different ways. So for us, it's more about the conversation than anything else. And Power Fitness, we're just glad you're here. We're glad everyone's here. And everyone who's been subscribing, everyone who's been here since day one, little over a year ago, Ant, when we were sitting at just a couple of hundred subs that have been talking with us and growing with us along the way. We cannot thank you all enough for all of the support and everything that's going on. And we're just excited to talk about the 49ers. It's always exciting to talk about the 49ers here, Ant. And it's even better when you have information and news to talk about and actually things happening. That's always a plus and a positive. And you're right. The Niners, though, right now, a lot of fans may not necessarily get this move or understand the impact of it. But talk about last year, how dreadful it was. It felt at times in the special teams game, right? It felt like when we did get stops and we had punts in situations, we were only picking up a handful of yards or just fair catching, and that was the end of it, or Brandon Ayuk was nowhere near the football. We're talking about adding a guy now who led the league in punt return yards, like you said, and could take some of these and turn them into situations or getting an extra 10, 15, 20 yards at a time and really flipping the field.
We got a new sub.
Coffee Queen.
Thank you, Coffee Queen.
Welcome to the TCC.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, you're adding something to that now. You no longer have to worry about special teams. It's been a big conversation for 49ers fans. That was part of the reason we wanted to keep different guys last year. This is a legit guy that can do both. He's a legit receiver who can also return. So it takes pressure off Brandon Ayuk. It takes pressure off Kyle Shanahan and have to let Brandon Ayuk be back there. And I think you saw that switch during the season where they decided, this Brandon Ayuk experiment as a punt returner hasn't worked. We're going to let Travis Benjamin handle it. So I think that now the Niners don't have to worry about that. They don't need Travis Benjamin. They don't need Mohamed Sanu to handle the punt return responsibilities. Or they don't need to put Deebo Samuel back there to handle the kick return responsibilities. They have now more defined roles for their wide receivers and then for their special teams. So it was a solid move that needed to be made. When Jakeem Grant went back, this was the obvious move now for the Niners to be able to make, and they made it. And I think they improved their team today. It wasn't a big, splashy, over-the-top move, but I think the more the 49er fans look at the film, get involved in it, and then watch him play during the training camp, during the preseason, I think they'll be really excited about what he could do for this team in the regular season.
They're going to grow. They'll grow to love him. Yeah. They'll grow to appreciate him. And Marvin, I can't believe you would bring up the fact that the Niners have lost some playoff games because of fumbles on special team and punt return. Those still hurt, man.
Yeah.
Those still hurt. I don't want to talk about those. The Todd Winthrow said we might as well shock the NFL world right now, Ant. Turn heads upside down and just trade for Aaron Rodgers. Bring him home. He don't want to be a Green Bay Packer because of Adam being gone. And the writing's on the wall. Just make the move. Just make the move. We thought the Aaron Rodgers talk was done, and every time. I
think it should be, with the fact that he's going to make close to $50 million.
My Lord Almighty!
Yeah, that contract was outrageous. I mean, apparently they had enough money to sign Devontae Adams, but it prices them out of making a lot of moves. So, I mean, I'm excited about the 49ers being on a rookie pay scale. I understand the allure of a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers, but I think the way the 49ers are moving forward and building this team, it is built around Trey Lance being the starting quarterback.
Accurate.
And so they got to continue down this route.
Absolutely, and Matravius McGill.
What is up, Matravius? How's it going?
Welcome to the TCC, my guy. Thank you for the subscription, and welcome to the party, my guy. Welcome. So we got a Debo, a Ray. Who's next, says NYCE. Who's next?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd like it to be a Cordero.
Ooh, there you go.
I want that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It would be wonderful if it was a Cordero or a Fuller.
Will Fuller.
That's
a lot of speed. I'll be honest. My top guy for the speed guy, Brandon Cooks.
Okay.
I want a Cooksy. That's what I want.
You want a Cooksy?
I want a Cooksy.
You want to cook up some secondaries, Ant?
You know that was their family nickname, right?
I knew it was Cooksy.
Yeah.
I'm just not on that basis with him. I didn't coach him.
Yeah.
Or play with him.
I didn't play with him, but I definitely coached him in All-Stars. So I did coach him. So we got that going for us.
I didn't do any of those things. Yeah. I'm not on the Cooksy basis.
In a shocking development, it was really fast.
I'm not gonna lie, and I'm stunned right now.
You're shocked, right?
I'm shocked. I know it doesn't show on the face Cutback crew, but it's all shockedness right now.
Yeah, he was fast.
It's all shockedness. And Gary, you were right. We are on the quest for 3,000. So everyone subscribing, everyone tuning in and joining, we really appreciate it. Help us get there. Help us get there. Keep sharing the video as well, liking it as well. That it all helps. It all helps. And we went over the 80. We got to TO amount of likes. So
nice. Well done.
We went over the mark.
Thanks everyone for helping.
Good job, TCC. That. We appreciate that in a big way. Mr. Corey says Will Fuller greater than Cooks when healthy, and Anthony Pebley.
Thank you, Anthony.
Welcome to the TCC.
Great name, by the way.
What, Anthony?
Anthony.
It's fine.
It's wonderful.
One more for the good guys.
Yeah.
Christian Perez.
Another great name.
Welcome to the
Christian
TCZ.
Perez.
That is a good name.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's really a whole lot of bad names out there.
No, I mean there's some that are.
Don't get me wrong. Like I don't want to despair. Anthony's a good name.
It's a good name. It's a lot better than
You know
Alex.
what's a better name though?
It's not Alex.
No, it's Grey Wolf.
Grey Wolf. Yeah. Love Grey Wolf.
Grey Wolf's a wonderful name.
Yeah. Don't let people steal my names, man.
No,
Yeah.
I'll try not to. That's our thing. That's not technically his thing.
Yeah.
Don't you be taking
I
that
like
back.
that. Race as NWO for life. Well done.
Big time indeed, man. Ayo, and another one more for the good guys, Ant. That's what
one more
what
for
we're
the
doing
good
over
guys.
here.
I love that.
We're definitely the good guys around these parts, Ant. We're definitely the good guys around these parts. I would yell at my screen and run forward, hanging on to the ball. I'm trying to see here. The move is a big splash for me. I was checking out his highlights, and he has speed, says Ray. So that's good. Some of the Cutback crew, Ant, and some of the Niners fans are hopefully going to be finding film of Ray Mcloud, starting to look him up and being like, you know what? This is A-okay. I don't necessarily hate this. I actually kind of like this, which is good. Here's the real question: Do we believe? And oh my goodness, we also had a couple that we missed. Ant, one was Jack Ramento.
Ooh,
thank you for subscribing. I really
solid
appreciate that,
name.
my guy.
Yeah.
Got lost in the shuffle there. Way to go, Stream Elements.
Yeah.
You big jerk. Let's get to Jag's super chat here first before I go that.
Okay.
Jag super chat, $5. I know it's early, but I like the edge guy from San Diego State, Cameron Thomas. I believe it's Cameron Thomas, I believe, or the edge Josh Pascal from Kentucky.
Okay.
Not fancy, but solid.
Interesting thing about Josh Pascal, and I'll give this away since everyone's on here right now. My feelings on him is I actually believe he's one of those guys that could move inside and play 3-tech.
That's what my thought process was too.
I like him a lot, and I think he would fit really well in what the 49ers want to do at the 3-tech position. So if you're looking to improve that area, I think Pascal makes a lot of sense there. As far as the other guy, I've watched limited film of him right now. I think I've watched a total of 20 snaps. I haven't got as far into it as but I do see some potential there. So I need to continue to break him down.
See, Jacramento, look at that. I got on Stream Elements. It got you, my guy.
Yeah, there you go. Jacramento, welcome.
Big time there. Big plays there, and I absolutely love it. And Jess, there's no hate here. There's no hate, just jealousy for such a great name. Just jealousy, knowing that I'm not going to get T. I really won't. Joel, the guys have been eyeing Cordero Patterson. I butchered the name, says Megan. And we have, Joel. We have been all over
Cordero Patterson, Philip Lindsay, Marlon Mack.
100%. All three of those.
Those are guys that are on my list. I think Cordero Patterson's flexibility and the fact that I've actually heard Kyle Shanahan say, yeah, I've wanted that guy for 5 years now. Those are things that make me think it would make a lot of sense for the 49ers to go that route. But I do love the fact that Marlon Mack could be the replacement for Jeff Wilson Jr. It's going to add a lot of dynamic ability there. So I'm excited about that.
Agreed with you there, and Shane, Arizona 49ers Empire, with just the $1 super chat. Shane.
Thanks, Shane. I appreciate it.
We appreciate that in a big way. T is the name, says Megan. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for that.
There you go.
Cameron Thomas from San Diego State gets compared to J.J. Watt, says Mr. Corey J. So, I mean, that's good. That's a pretty solid comparison there, and I would argue and say that that's a pretty good. Should be Dream Elements because they're sleeping, says T.O. It's like that sometimes.
Well done.
It is like that sometimes.
I like that Sean Bullard said Saquon.
Look,
are we ready to have that conversation yet?
I don't know if I'm there yet.
I think
Sean, I want to, but I don't know if I'm there yet.
I know Raheem really put a big stink in that before. Raheem coming back just made it so it didn't seem like Saquon was an option. I have the injury concerns, but I think if you traded for him, if it was a 4th round pick, like it's rumored,
4th round pick is worth it. The question just is the $7 million.
Well, yeah, I mean, because couldn't you give him a 3rd round comp, for instance, or even your 4th? You pick 133, send it to the Giants, get him back, and then extend him and restructure that deal so that $7 million doesn't hit them this year. Rework deal, getting Saquon Barkley, maybe getting his number under $5 million, Alex?
I'll take that.
Would you be down with Elijah Mitchell and Saquon Barkley being the dominant running backs? Or what if you could convince them to take Trey Sermon, for instance, and you don't have to give it. You can give a late round pick and Trey Sermon for Saquon Barkley.
If I could take Trey Sermon and a 6th and give it up for Saquon Barkley, or Trey Sermon and a compensatory 6th, ideally, and get Saquon Barkley, I would do that.
Yeah.
I would 100% do that.
So, I mean, I think it's something to monitor as the 49ers continue to try to build this running back room. But I think there's some options. Saquon is one of those. And then there's some guys on the free agent market that are going to be cheaper that are available as well. But I still think the one that we have to see fall before we think the Niners aren't all the way in on him is Cordero.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. Lou, has anybody actually seen Kinlaw since his surgery or rehabbing? Everybody's talking like he's going to be fine. I was just wondering. He did post something the other day.
Yeah. And John Lynch commented on the fact that Kinlaw was on track and in fact looking, really good. So they were at least hopeful. But once again, Lou, we don't know for sure. I think we're all just being, kind of projecting it out and taking into account that the 49ers haven't made a move, for a big-time nose tackle, and DJ Jones is gone. So they have to think that Kinlaw is going to be the replacement, unless they are going to address it in the draft or go with a veteran option. Maybe an Ndamukong Suh. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen at this point. I do think they're going to go edge before they go interior. So I do think it's going to be Kinlaw, and I think they're just hopeful that he's going to be the guy, and it might make us nervous, but I think that's what happens.
Very true, and very true indeed. Blind Vision says, talk about Jimmy G trade rumors. Blind Vision, be specific. What exactly do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the teams that are possibly in the hunt? Do you want to talk about what the value may be? What do you want? What do you want to hear about that? Because there's a lot of things to talk about with the Jimmy G trade stuff and what's happening.
A ton.
So let us know. Let us know in the comment section, and we'll address it. We'll try and talk about it anyway, to the best of our abilities, without being long in the tooth about it, Ant. Because I don't know if everyone's known this, but basically Jimmy G trade rumors and trading Jimmy G and the 49ers quarterback situation has basically been a topic of conversation since this time last year.
Yeah, it's pretty much since the 49ers traded up to 3. People have been talking about whether Jimmy Garoppolo was going to get moved in the draft. It continued all during the season, and then, of course, it picked up a lot of steam. He kind of said his farewell. So I fully expect him to get traded. The teams has kind of changed as we've went on.
True.
And teams have gone in, teams have gone out. Then all of a sudden it was the grand jury thing happened with Deshaun Watson, and all of a sudden it's a different route there. And then all of a sudden Atlanta gets added to the group. Cleveland possibly gets added to the group. I just think this has been one of those things that's got a lot of different parts and moving parts. We're kind of just trying to wait it out. But I think Jimmy G will get moved. I don't believe he's going to be on the 49ers 2022 roster. I don't think they want to carry that money. So it's going to happen at some point. It's just what value are they going to get from him, and who's going to blink first?
That's the big one, man. It feels like it's a game of chicken right now between what feels like 2 teams, but we'll see. Well, with some teams being excommunicated from the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes and not having a chance to land the man, maybe now that stare down is starting to turn a little bit more into an actual conversation and things actually being able to get done and progress actually being able to be made. Todd Winthrow says, trust me, Julio Jones is next. Had his best years under Shanahan. Don't sleep on it. Julio, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, watch out NFL.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
It's possible. I mean, it definitely is possible. I think the 49ers aren't done making moves. I think they're gonna make some shrewd moves. I think any players that they get are gonna be the right price. I'm gonna keep an eye on Austin Hooper. He's somebody that I'm keeping an eye on. I'm gonna keep an eye on Cordero Patterson, of course, of Julio Jones, because he has ties to Kyle Shanahan. Those are the kind of the offensive names that I'm keeping an eye on. And then I want to see what happens with our guy Brandon Cooks out of Houston, because if he does get moved, the 49ers would definitely be a team he'd be interested in. So if he gets cut for some reason, Houston wants to free up some cap space to make some moves there, then yeah, he would be somebody I think the Niners would possibly share interest with. The one thing I do know is Brandon Cooks has interest in being with the 49ers.
That he does, and we're excited about that and the potentiality there behind it. Quest for Six says, didn't we try to get Suh a couple of years ago before he chose to go back to Tampa?
Yeah, I mean, that is true. That is true. Suh has connections with Chris Kasarik. So anytime you have coaching connections like that, you start connecting the dots. The question is, will Tampa Bay just want to roll it back with Suh and try to make it happen again? That's possible as well. So what Suh decides is ultimately going to be interesting because he's won a Super Bowl now. So you don't know if he's ring chasing or if he's just trying to get one more decent contract. We'll see, because I think he's a couple years from now, maybe even this year, he's getting close to retirement.
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think. I think the thing the Niners have going for them in the Suh situation and the Suh potentiality of him landing in San Francisco is Chris Kasarik, is the relationship he has with Ndamukong Suh, the fact that they've been at 2 separate stops together, the fact that Suh started his career with him as his coach. That does bode well in San Francisco's favor. So we've talked about this before in the past here on the show. It's always something you have to keep in the back of your mind. It's always something to keep an eye out on. But where is he at? Where's he at? Is he ring chasing?
Yeah.
Is he mercenarying it? Or is he going to go someplace where maybe he has a chance to win, but he also has a chance to get paid?
Yeah, and we
saw Chandler Jones just say that, right? It was, I want someone that's going to value the things that I do and bring to the table, but also I can make some money. It came down to San Francisco and Oakland, and he chose to get paid and deal with the AFC West.
Well, I mean, if they knew, right, that they were getting Devontae Adams, or he had any inclination that they were bringing in a big-time player, the Raiders just got a lot more, sexy of a pick for Chandler Jones. So it makes sense. I mean, it really does. So I think that happens. I've seen some other good questions coming through as well, Alex. I did see, I believe Jack Romero asked about the Honey Badger. We love the Honey Badger.
Love it.
The question for the Honey Badger is not anything to do with the field. It's how he's going to fit into the locker room. Is he a locker room fit? I believe the 49ers front office would have to figure that out if he's somebody they feel comfortable bringing in. Talent-wise, though, he makes a lot of sense.
100%.
If you're looking to load up and you can take advantage of the Honey Badger's salt level, because he will get salty at certain teams, but he's also a smart guy. He knows that leaving the AFC West and maybe even getting out of the AFC is his best opportunity to win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
He's a possibility. The problem is now Tampa Bay needs a safety. And
yeah, they do.
I don't put it past Tom Brady to call Tyrann Mathieu and say, hey, man, you could come down here and win a Super Bowl with us. So I think that Tyrann Mathieu is one of those guys that could end up being one of those guys that's a mercenary that you go get to try to win a Super Bowl this year. But we'll see where that ends up. But I would love to see him with the Niners from a player standpoint. I don't know how he is off the field. I'm not privy to that information all the time, but I would love to see it for X and O's reasons.
I'd love it for X's and O's reasons. It's also got to make sense logistically. But then again, why do we as 49ers fans, I feel like we as 49ers fans say this all the time, and for everyone else, it logistically finds a way to work out. I think that's the reality of the situation right now with the Niners. It feels like everyone else can logistically make it work, and San Francisco doesn't. It's almost like San Francisco operates like that cap is a real thing, and everyone else is it's just an arbitrary number that they just bend things around to make fit. I think the big thing with the Honey Badger, though, is just money. I think that's one of the biggest issues is, Tyrann Mathieu Tyrann Mathieu is a good guy. Right? He's doing his thing. He's a good person. The Honey Badger is the one that wants the money and all the other stuff, right? I mean, Tyrann's talked about this as much. I don't know if he's going to be willing to take it on the cheap to come back to come to San Francisco. I know he said in the past that San Francisco is a dream place for him.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see if it's a dream place. Because if it's a dream to be here, then he may be willing to give up a little bit to get here. Blind Vision, by the way, finally commented back on the Jimmy situation. What he wants to, I think, what he may want to talk about here. He doesn't think Jimmy's going to get traded because if no one wants him because they think Carson Wentz is better, and Jimmy went to an NFC Championship game. So what is his trade value really? Is what I think. Your thoughts? He really wants to know what Jimmy's trade value is because he believes teams don't want Jimmy. That's why Carson got moved first. He's been to an NFC Championship game. Why is no one trading for him? What is that value actually? And are the Niners maybe holding on a little too long or asking too much? You and I have talked about this in the past. We both feel like a second is not too much, especially with the market as it's currently played out. And the Niners have to be looking at this and thinking second and a third, ideally, probably 2 seconds at best is what they're hoping for. But I don't think they would turn down a second and a fourth. But they definitely want a kicker with that second round pick.
I think ultimately they might take the Carson Wentz trade from Indianapolis. 2 3s, swap the 2s.
An escalator.
And maybe even an escalator. Yeah, I think that those are possibilities. I think his trade value is whatever a team is willing to pay. Now, the one thing we do know is if we trust John Middlecoff's information, the 49ers have been offered a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. Correct. Which means there is some value there. So you could easily get 2 3s out of a team. If you wanted to move back, the numbers work out that way in Jimmy Johnson's chart. I think if you're sticking on the 2, the problem is you're right. It's the kicker. The 49ers want another pick. What is that going to be? They probably want 2 2s. They probably want the Alex Smith, 2013 caliber trade. I don't know if they're going to get that. So they're sitting there and they're waiting. And they're just waiting to do it. And the whole time they have a kind of a good idea of what is the value because Carson Wentz went for a 3. 2 3s, the kicker and all that. Because you're willing to trade your quarterback to get another quarterback. It usually means the guy you're willing to get is a better value than the guy you just moved off of. So you want a little bit better value. So we'll see. I think both these guys are just looking eye to eye, but we don't know the real value of Jimmy Garoppolo because the 49ers don't have leaks. So they're not letting out what they're being offered. You're only hearing whispers about what's being offered.
Very true, Ant. You're only hearing whispers. There's not a lot of confirmations on a wall of it, and Baymack, that is a good one. If D Ford and Kinlaw play a full season, all atheists will change thoughts on the afterlife.
Well played. Well played.
Baymac, there is a big part of me that wants that to happen now because I want to see you back here in the chat. I want to see you back here in the chat if that happens. And trust me, the first time they miss a game, you can be back here in the chat and just put ... And I will give you a nice little salute and a tip of the hat, my guy, because that is funny. As of this point in time, it is also pretty accurate with the two of them. Kinlaw, I'm still not willing to say Kinlaw injury prone because he did play his entire rookie season through that injury and stuck out a good chunk of this year through the injury as well. The question with him is just getting healthy so he can be the best version of himself. D Ford is the one that, oh man, he just, since the 2019 season, cannot stay on the field.
No, I mean, he really hasn't been able to get on the field, stay on the field. Last year, I mean, we were hopeful. He got out there for, not even a handful of games, and then he was gone again. When he's out there, he's making plays. The problem is the back doesn't hold up. And this year it was a kicker because he got a concussion. He met at the quarterback, got a concussion. It affected the neck, which ultimately affected the back. So this is one of those things that it's tough. And the 49ers are definitely invested in him financially.
True.
Anything you can get out of him is a bonus. Hopefully he'll be ready to go, and hopefully he'll be able to play. I think the Niners, though, just treat it like he's a cherry on top. You got to prepare like you don't have him. And then if he's there, you're like, wow, great, we have D Ford. But you can't prepare that, which means they need to go out there and be hyper aggressive with their defensive line play. And that means that even if that is just bringing back Arden Key and Jordan Willis and continuing the rotation that you had, and you have to hope that Kinlaw is able to produce at the level that DJ Jones did.
Agreed with you on that there. And right here, great point. In my opinion, I think Lynch is setting up for 2023 to go all in with bad contracts gone with Jimmy and D Fords. Go all in free agency in 2023. I think 2022 is the prelude for 2023. That could be the case. That could be the case. It is a point that, I don't want to admit. I don't want it to be true. And I know you don't like that, and I don't disagree with you on it. But that may be the situation in the boat that we're in right now, where John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are looking at this year and looking at the team that they have and looking at free agency and the current predicament that they're in with the salary cap, knowing that next year the salary cap is going up, knowing that you haven't moved off of Jimmy Garoppolo immediately and are just holding pat, knowing that they're going to improve the room, improve the team slightly, anticipating being able to make a big improvement next season. I don't love that. I'm not a big fan of that. Not only am I a guy who's come around from, establishing a roster for now and the future to a guy who really wants them to commit to getting a Super Bowl now because you don't know when you're going to get one. It's a risk either way. You can either go all in now and maybe it works out and maybe it doesn't, or you can wait and go all in next year. But if injuries happen or guys don't develop or, the salary cap goes up so much for everybody that it doesn't matter how much extra additional cap space you have. You can't sign all the guys you need to have the impact. You're going to be screwed either way.
The NFC is not as strong as it was last year.
No.
The 49ers could potentially be stronger than everyone else. This is an opportunity. The AFC has went out and got all the big-time talent. I see an avenue for them to go all in and win a Super Bowl. They have to commit to it.
Because those teams are going to beat themselves up in the AFC.
Yeah, they are. And the thing is right now, the Rams haven't gotten a lot better. Yeah, they signed Allen Robinson. They still don't have Von Miller.
Their O-line is worse.
They don't have Andrew Whitworth. They lost Darius Williams. They are taking hits. Arizona hasn't gotten a lot better. So Seattle is whatever Seattle is. I mean, without Russell Wilson, they're going to have Drew Lock. You got DK Metcalf coming out and defending Drew Lock. These are not teams I'm scared about. So the Niners
Arizona's doing nothing either.
Yeah, so the Niners have a path to not only win the division, but possibly get out of the conference if they make some strategic moves. What those are going to be, I think, are a lot like Ray McLeod. And then when they move off Jimmy Garoppolo, they're going to have money to do some stuff. But I do see potential for them to go like, you know what? If we put the pedal to the metal right now, the Rams are a team we would have to contend with. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team we have to contend with. But we can beat the Cowboys. We can beat the Packers. So I think you're looking at an opportunity to be like, yeah, if Trey Lance plays at a little bit higher rate than Jimmy Garoppolo, we're the team playing in the Super Bowl, and all we have to do is win one game against one of those teams that goes through murderer's row through their playoffs to get to us.
Correct. Marini just said it. You guys think Lance is ready? Be honest. I'm
going to be
right on it. Ready is subjective. It is 100% subjective in terms of what you believe ready to be. Right? Is he ready to lead this team to a Super Bowl? I don't know. I would say probably not. He's a second-year quarterback who's coming in with some things he's got to work on. Is he ready to be a guy who can go out there and execute Kyle Shanahan's system? I think he's really close. And if he's not ready right now, I think he can be ready by the time we get to week 1.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to know for sure he's going to be ready until he starts actually playing. The one thing I will say about it, though, is I do believe he's going to take the next step and he's going to develop. And I think he's going to be a legitimate NFL quarterback this year. And I do believe he has the potential to take the 49ers to the Super Bowl if he's able to understand the offense and get the ball out in rhythm and in time. If he does that with his athletic ability and his skills, he could definitely elevate the team to another level. So he has the intangibles. It's just, can he pick up the offense in a nice way? I do believe that he can get there, but I won't know tangibly if he's ready until he starts playing or starts practicing and we can see it, because the only people that are going to know that are Kyle Shanahan, Brian Griese, John Lynch, these guys that get to look at him, or even right now, just the training staff that he's working with, including John Beck. So I don't think anyone knows, including John Lynch said he won't know for sure until Trey Lance gets in there week 1 and plays.
It's very true. Power Fitness here. NFC West is now the NFC less. We just need to beat the Rams and stave off the Cards. You're not wrong. I mean, and it's doable. You played the Cardinals tight. You were within grass in both games and made mistakes to cost yourself wins. You beat the Rams in the regular season 2 different times. So it's not like you can't handle these football teams. It's not like you can't do that. The biggest obstacle for you was the Seattle Seahawks, and they've essentially taken care of themselves for you. You don't have to worry about them.
Well, right. And Arizona, it's kind of fallen off a little bit, and you've gotten better in areas to help you beat them.
Correct.
One of those ways is that you've got a corner, of course, but Arizona also lost Chandler Jones. So now Trey Lance is going to have more opportunity.
Well, they lost Chandler Jones and haven't upgraded another defensive end pass rusher. They haven't brought someone in to fill that void.
Well, they will. They're going to bring in somebody eventually, but they're not going to be as good as Chandler Jones. And that's the thing. Right now, the NFC West is kind of settling in. The 49ers could easily pull the trigger and start working their way up. So this is going to be something to watch, especially once Jimmy does get moved. Then what do they do with that money? And if they go out and they spend it aggressively and they take some chances, who knows? And if maybe they use some of their trade capital in a Rams sort of way, less in the draft and more through picking up players, including like a Saquon Barkley or something like that. We'll see. Maybe a Brandon Cooks, fields them some. They use some draft capital to pick him up. It's possible. So let's see what they do. Let's see what the 49ers do. But I'm very encouraged by the Ray Mcloud. I thought that was a very nice signing and a good way for our Thursday to go, because I was a little concerned there for a minute that there was just going to be nothing but players leaving.
Yeah, it was literally up to Ray Mcloud signing. It was just Kentavious Street going to New Orleans and just good old Trent Sherfield going to Miami, San Francisco 49ers down there with good old Mike McDaniels, excuse me. Just taking all of our guys. So look, the Raymond McLeod signing is a nice little additional piece to add on to all of this. I love it. I love the addition. I love the improvement. And I'm excited. I am excited about what this team can do. I'm excited about inching closer to Deshaun Watson finally making a decision and the Niners potentially being able to finally trade Jimmy Garoppolo and get what they've been trying to get for him. And Todd Renthrow asked, so we'll take a couple more questions, Cutback Crew. What do you guys think about Brian Griese hire for quarterback coach? I know I went live and broke it. I know we have talked about it. I know I like it a whole heck of a lot. I know you like it a lot. I think this is great for the Niners. You're going to be losing someone in Jimmy Garoppolo and the experience of playing quarterback at a high, at a fairly high level. He's gone to a Super Bowl. He's gone to an NFC Championship game. You can say he's an average middle of the road quarterback, but he's led the team into and out of tough games and tough situations where he's needed to win. And now you're going to bring in Brian Griese, another guy who has experience playing quarterback in this league, has experience playing it at a fairly high level. And then Trey's going to be able to lean on that. That's important.
It is. And when something happens in the game, he's going to be able to go to Brian Griese and talk to him. And Brian Griese is going to be able to reflect on his own personal experiences about what he saw when he was in the same situation. He saw some of the greatest quarterbacks do it, including John Elway, who started ahead of him his rookie season. And he saw the way that these guys handle. He's worked with Kubiak, he's worked with Shanahan before. So he's going to have the ability. John Gruden, in fact, too, helped him with quarterback play.
True.
He's going to be able to look at Trey Lance and tell him, hey, don't worry, this is this or this is that. He understands the offense, and of course, Kyle Shanahan will help get him to the level where he understands the ins and the outs of it. But because he has a basis of it, it's going to be a quick learn. I think this was a solid guy, somebody that's going to be able to offer a lot of experience to Trey Lance, and that's important. They've insulated Trey Lance now with Nate Sudfeld, who he felt completely comfortable with, somebody that worked with him all the time last year on helping him decipher the reads and going through progressions during plays, to now adding Brian Greasy, who will be able to do it from his firsthand experience about how he did it when he played. I think it's a bang up matchup, and I like it. So yeah, I was excited about the move. I was a little surprised when I first saw it, but I was also surprised when Scangarello left. So Kyle Shanahan going out and getting a player or a guy like this to leave Monday Night Football, and it makes sense now, right? You got Troy Aikman and Joe Buck going there, but hey, let's see how it helps Trey. I'm hoping it's really going to help take Trey to the next level.
I am hoping so as well. I would love that to be the case. I really would. Gary, counting down the likes to 100. Cutback crew, help us get there because we're getting ready to wrap up for the night and call it a night. The Niners finally making a move today, and after watching two more gentlemen walk away, sure up the special teams area, at least the punt and kick return game. You would imagine to an extent, bring in Ray Mcloud. And Donald Johnson asks, if you could get Gilmore or Cooks, which one would you pick? That's a tough question. And I'll let you go first on this now as I get the poll ready for the Cutback crew to vote on that as well.
I'm going Stephon Gilmore because
really?
Oh yeah, and I love Brandon Cooks.
You do. That's why I'm surprised.
But if you shut down, another team, if you take away them on their offense, I have a belief that the 49ers can get a run game going and be able to get themselves up. Plus, I believe Trey Lance is going to be able to extend some plays. You added Ray Mcloud to an already very talented wide receiver core. You could also go with somebody in the draft like Christian Watson, or one of these other guys like Gray. Those guys would make sense for the 49ers. So I think there's other ways to build it. Gilmore would just make that defense elite. So yeah, that would be the first one. But man, it'd be really hard for me personally to say no to Brandon Cooks. But I think the 49ers would choose Stephon Gilmore over Brandon Cooks in that situation.
I like that there, Ant. I really do like that there. My thought process on this right now is Gilmore. One, because it's more realistic than Cooks at the moment, because you have to find a way to trade for Cooks, whereas Gilmore you can just sign. But two, and the big reason is the Arizona Cardinals are going to go grab some wide receivers and try and bolster the room. The Rams have already done so and still may be doing that. They still may be taking that route and taking that option. So make sure that you can cover. Make sure you can cover those guys. Make sure your secondary can hold up and hang on when it needs to. And, at the end of the day, you can find a guy that maybe can't do all of the things that Brandon Cooks does, but maybe does some things in the speed category to make out on losing out on a Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks is a legitimate 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, he's done it multiple times for multiple teams. He's one of those guys that doesn't matter what scheme you run, he fits in it. I would love to see him. This is honestly something that was quoted to me that has been said by him. He believes him, Brandon Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel would be the best three receivers in the NFL. And he even admits that he played with a really good group with Robert Woods and them in Los Angeles. So
there you go.
That mere fact, that was told to me that's what Brandon Cooks said. So, yeah, I mean, Brandon Cooks would make a lot of sense for the 49ers, but it doesn't mean anything if he can't get out of Houston or the 49ers or if Houston isn't willing to deal him. So we're kind of talking about hypotheticals at this point.
Very much true. The hypotheticals and Baymac, we appreciate the comment, man. We appreciate you commenting all night long. He said, You guys are cool. Too optimistic, ... But good. Thank you for the content. Hey, I understand all the points that Baymac has been making and the things he's questioning. I get them because a lot of them are realities, right? Guys being injured, guys not being available. The Niners having in the past signed injury prone players. So we appreciate it, Baymac. It's part of the conversation, and it's something at the way.
It keeps it balanced. I mean,
agreed.
During the season, Baymac, you really would have enjoyed when everyone had the Niners off the cliff and we were saying we were going to make the playoffs. That's
true.
That's really when we caught the heat about being too optimistic.
True.
But yeah, we definitely like the checks and balances. We like when people, say different things. Lou is another one often in the chat that has a contrarian opinion or maybe like a different opinion from what we're thinking. Sometimes I agree with him. I think a little bit more than you do. But
typically with Lou, you were closer to agreeing with Lou more times than I am.
But I think it's nice to have different opinions and have conversations about those. So that's what's exciting about doing the live streams and the chats, because then we get to interact with everybody. And that's what we like doing the most. So when you leave questions, we do really try to get to them because it's fun.
We're trying to get to as many as we possibly can. And Jelly, you are right. After the season is when Cooks is set to become a free agent, I believe.
Yeah, it is. He's coming into the last year of his deal. That was part of the reason that there was a belief that he could get actually moved out. He's scheduled to make $13 million. $7 million of that would be dead if they traded him or cut him. But they would save $6 million. So
nice.
If they're looking to build, in another way, maybe that's possible. But I mean, he had another 1,000-yard season playing with Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills. So
just finds a way to get it done, Ant. And apparently Deshaun Watson carried that wide receiving core.
Yeah, he was not happy about that, by the way.
I wouldn't have been happy about that. It was absolutely ridiculous. And Marvin said, "Got the 100 likes, guys. Cool."
Woo!
TCC.
Thank you all.
That's all on you. Thank you so much for that. Ant, what another day. Day 2 of free agency, official free agency, not tampering periods, not any of that nonsense. Day 2 of free agency is a wrap for now for here on the channel. But if anything breaks, if anything else happens, if the 49ers do anything else between now and just at any point in time, even if it's 12 o'clock midnight, we will be here. We will be breaking it down, breaking the news, breaking the information. And Cutback crew, man, thank you so much for the support. All of you, top to bottom, liking the video, commenting all night long, hitting that like button, sharing it with the rest of the faithful. Questions aplenty, Ant, and new members as well. Power Fitness, thank you for becoming a channel member tonight. We really do appreciate that. Every little bit that you guys do, whether it's just here, whether it's commenting, liking the video, subscribing, becoming a channel member, joining over on Patreon, joining our Discord, whatever it is, it helps this community grow. It helps this channel grow, and we cannot thank you enough for it.
Yeah, we can't thank you enough. Looking forward to all the future streams that we're going to have about the 49ers free agency, and then, of course, all the draft content that's going to be coming up. If you like draft content, you're going to want to be here. We go overload on draft content. I'm excited about it, and you're not going to want to miss the fan-controlled mock draft. We'll be doing that, after we get through free agency a little bit. You guys are in control. We're just here to facilitate as you go through the 7-round mock draft and make all the picks for the 49ers. I'm looking forward to all of it. I'm looking forward to interacting with everybody because we've got a lot of great people in chat from day ones all the way to all the new people. Really enjoying the conversations. And looking forward to be on the lookout. There's going to be a lot of big news coming through from us here in the coming weeks. So make sure you're here when you can, and it's going to be a fun time.
It's going to be a blast, Jess. We appreciate that. Lou, you're pretty cool too, man. You're pretty great. Also, you're also my guy. We appreciate all the support. Ray, welcome to the Niners, bro. Make us proud this season's Niners for life 2022, 2023. Mike, 49ers. That's right. We'll wrap this thing up on that. Let's chalk another one up. And what an absolute incredible night. We'll see y'all for more breaking news.
All right, guys, let's chalk another one up.
Later, Cutback crew.